Going live. Yeah, there we go. Welcome to Now That's Debatable. Got a very special episode today with two guests, not just one, but two guests. Before we kick off the episode, we are going to go ahead and give a shout out to Relic Media. If AAA, you'd like to take that over, then I'll get our faces up on the screen. We're going to kick it right off. No time to waste.
Yeah, Relic Media is our partner parent streaming service. If you have a new podcast, you want to try to get it off the ground, off the 0 views list, hit us up. We'll get you in contact with Relic Media, and they can have you join the Relic family.
Awesome.
And that's all I got to say.
All right, faces are up on the screen. We are good to go. Where do we want to start?
Sure. So I've watched a few of your videos, and I noticed a topic that comes up. I'm talking to you, Kid, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
So a topic that comes up a lot is truth. So it'd probably be a good idea for the rest of the conversation if we start off with, I guess, a mutual understanding of truth. We may not agree, but at least when you say truth, I know what you mean. And when I say truth, I know you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So like, well, for instance, like there was a few times I heard you say ultimate truth. I remember you were arguing with there was a female type atheist. I don't remember her name.
Yeah,
beat the code or something like that.
Yeah.
You were using the word ultimate truth, and she was denying that it existed, but I never heard anyone define it. So I'm just like, what are you denying? And so like, what did you mean by ultimate truth, and how is that distinct from truth?
Well, I'm not distinguishing those two. That's
Okay.
So that would have been my definition: that which is ultimate or absolute and universal.
Well, okay, so, but I mean, something can be true without being absolute or universal.
Like
right?
what?
Okay, so I mean, like for instance, like when you say absolute, do you mean like non-contingent? Like as in it has like a aseity. So there's a lot of things that are true that are contingent. Like for instance, my existence, right? There are certain things that has to exist in order for me to exist.
Well,
right?
so truth. So I think you're looking at truth from a singular proponent. Like, so I would not hold that there's not a singular truth that's not connected to the other. So truth isn't as Van Til or Bonson said, there's no brute fact. There's nothing that exists on its own apart from any outside of God, from my perspective.
Okay, that's what I'm about to ask.
So facts. So something can be true, but also contingent upon other truths.
Okay, all right. So
in another sense, I believe all truth is related.
Okay, so when you say truth, ultimate truth, same thing. What about absolute truth?
Yeah, those will be synonyms for what I'm speaking about. Yeah.
Okay, and so when you say so absolute truth, ultimate truth, those can still be contingent things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, something being contingent doesn't mean it's not absolute. Because then I would argue, I mean, nearly everything then is contingent upon some other fact.
Okay. All right. So how about this? So when we say that something's true, what exactly do you mean by that? So we know that it's not contingent. Like for me, like I accept the correspondence theory.
Say that again.
So like when we say something's true, for me, I accept the correspondence theory of truth, right? So that which is true comports with reality.
Right.
So I mean, as a precept, and you mentioned Van Til, I'm gonna guess you're gonna say that which is true corresponds to the mind of God.
Yeah, that would be more accurate too. Which I would say that is ultimately reality.
Okay, so
it's not. I have a view of metaphysics as well.
Okay, all right. So, did you want to expound on your view of metaphysics?
Yeah. So I mean, you kind of said it. I mean, yeah, that which corresponds to the mind of God. I would absolutely. That would be my position. Absolutely, that's accurate.
Okay, and it sounds like you said in another video I was watching that so without truth, without God, you can't have truth.
You cannot know truth for certain. But
truth can exist without a God.
No, I would disagree with that.
Okay.
Because
So
remember my definite. I would say reality wouldn't exist.
okay. So is reality contingent upon God?
Yeah, he defines the metaphysics. Absolutely, it comes from him.
So okay, because this is, I guess this is what I didn't understand, because it seems to me that reality would be, it seems to me that God, if he exists, full disclosure, I'm an atheist.
Yeah,
So was I. Okay. So yeah, all right. So it sounds to me that if anything's contingent, it would have been God who's contingent on reality, not the vice versa.
Why is that?
Because reality has to exist by necessity.
Why
Like
is that?
it would violate the law of identity.
So you believe the universe is universal?
Well, it depends what you mean by universe.
Always exist. So that I'll let you define it. How about that?
Okay, well, I mean, so 100 years ago, when people said universe, it was all of existence, but that's kind of changed after general relativity. Now they're talking about the presentation of space-time, and that is the idea that there's multiple.
Yeah, I meant
So you saying universe?
I didn't mean like actual star, but yeah, existence.
All of existence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all right, so yeah, existence, existence, that's reality, and it has to exist by necessity. It would violate the law of identity. Because then
what would be the violation?
Reality wouldn't be reality. Reality would be fake. It would be fictional.
But how does reality or reality coming into existence?
It couldn't come into existence. Like it.
But
it
that's
exists,
what I'm challenging.
Well, it exists by necessity. So like reality there couldn't be a point where reality wasn't reality. That's if we were talking about reality coming into existence, then there could be a point where there's no reality. That violates identity.
So would we understand reality as like creation as well?
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, creation is a part of so I guess we
got to define what is reality, because it depends what you mean.
Reality is just all of existence. So when you talk about creation, I guess you're talking about like nature and stuff, like right? So
yeah,
trees.
Nature.
Okay.
I mean, but even like wind. I mean, so it could be non-material things as well.
Yes, those things could come into being.
Okay,
but there couldn't be just non-existence, like reality, whatever it is. Like I'm not even making a statement about the nature of reality. Just whatever it is, it has to exist by logical necessity. It violates the law of identity, which then violates the law of non-contradiction.
Okay,
so it has to exist.
So what is that then? Because you're saying it has to always exist. What is the it?
So reality. So yeah. I'm not making any statement about the nature of its existence, only that it has to exist. So like we could go back towards the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago, and after that, Einstein's field equations break down as physics stops making sense. So I mean, so empirically, we just can't investigate what was going on back there. But there was something happening. It had to be. Like
you're saying prior to the Big Bang?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
something was going on. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah,
I have a Christian, worldview to understand that, but it depends on what you mean that existed. You know what I'm saying?
So
that's where we would divert.
Sure. So like I'm not saying. So I can see a God not existing. For instance, like let's say I had a universe, right? I had a reality, and there was nothing in it but, let's just say, like an electron, right, or a dot. Let's say this is just a dot that was there. Electron would be complicated. So let's say there's a dot. In that reality, where there's nothing else, there's no God, right? It's just a dot. You can now make truth statements, right? Which implies an ontology, existence, right? So I can say there's a dot. That is true. It corresponds to reality. Don't need a God for it, right? I can say left to the dot, right?
But who would? I mean, but it's kind of hard to even jump in this worldview because you're using an intelligent mind to go back when there's no intelligent mind to say there's an intelligence of a dot being there. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's kind of difficult to actually put this worldview you're putting on the table as real.
I think what you're saying is that like in order for a proposition to be made, it takes an intelligent mind. That's what you're saying, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, sure. So there's an intelligent mind, just me. Like I'm not a god. I'm just in the universe.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I can make true statements. I can say I'm code. I can say I exist. I can say I'm not omniscient. There's just tons of true statements that I can make. Don't need a god for it. All right.
I mean, I would disagree, but I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, well, let's say I'm in a universe, it's just me, and I say I exist. How is that false? Or how is that not true?
Well, all those true claims that one makes are dependent upon a certain worldview and presuppositions, things like that. A person that just drops on a world, they don't even know what existence is. They don't. That's
epistemology. So not relevant. So
truth is related to epistemology, right?
It really is. No. If we talk, if we're
talking
about
knowledge, truth.
No. If it's true, if that's knowledge. If we're talking about truth, ontology is the only thing that matters.
What's the difference between truth and knowledge?
So truth is that which comports to reality. Knowledge is by understanding of that which comports to reality.
So they're related. You're just substituting truth and understanding.
Well, no, I didn't. So like you can have truth without any sort of knowledge of it. Yes. Like for instance, like there could be, let's talk about like beyond the cosmic horizon, right? Where space is expanding faster than the speed of light. Okay. So there's no way for any information to travel from that point to here. Like we can never communicate. We're for all intents and purposes in a separate universe, right? So there's no way I can investigate, but I can make a statement. I can say there's galaxies beyond the cosmic horizon.
I think I know what you're saying.
So
let me put in another way, because you're gonna lose me on a lot of space analogies.
Okay. Sorry.
So like someone could know the truth that if they flip on the light, it turns on without understanding how a light works and the knowledge of. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Well, they don't even have to know that the light's going to come on. So they could make, let's say they make the proposition, the light's going to come on when I flip this switch. They have no reason to think that whatsoever. If in fact the light comes on, it was true.
Right.
Epistemology is totally irrelevant.
I don't. That's where I would disagree. Where I would disagree.
So maybe I can try it from a different angle if it helps. Just okay. So I had my face up, but my camera takes up a lot of my CPU. But you didn't see me from the waist down. Okay. Now, you can't know whether I'm wearing socks or not. Okay?
Right.
Like, it's not something that you can know. But it's true that I'm either wearing...
It is something I could know.
It's something you could know, but it's something you don't know. But what I will say that you have no knowledge of it currently. Right. But what is true is that I am either wearing socks or I am not.
Right.
So it has nothing to do with knowledge. It's to do with the state of being. Either my feet have socks on them.
That's a knowledge. That's still a knowledge.
You don't have to know anything. Is it true or not? You don't know. You currently do not know. Is it a true statement or is it not? One of those is true.
Right.
So if you guess,
it does have to do with knowledge.
No.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Why does it matter?
So think about this. So we talk about like truth is that which comports to reality.
Yes.
Okay. Now something can comport to reality regardless of whether or not you know it, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so then you have truth.
So then you don't need knowledge.
Not relevant.
But
you have truth.
Can you know truth?
Well, sure. You can know things.
It does with knowledge. There you go.
Well, sure, but
they're not contingent upon each other.
Yes, my knowledge of truth is independent of the truth. The truth can exist without me having any knowledge of it.
Sure.
So that's what. So
if that's all you're saying, I agree.
Okay. Well, all right. So that's what I was saying. Well, like with the universe, there's a universe. There's no God in it whatsoever. I can make truth statements, right? I don't need to have any sort of epistemology, whatsoever. Truth is not. But wait a minute. But then you just agreed that you just
one can know truth without having knowledge. One cannot know truth or knowledge without knowing God. I didn't agree to that.
Okay, so that's not what I'm saying.
That's also not what we said or what you said, because you just contradicted yourself. You said you can know truth without knowledge. You can't know something without knowledge.
Maybe I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was agreeing with what he said earlier.
Okay, so when I'm talking about just the ontology of truth, like something can like there are things about that are true about the universe that no one knows, yet they are still true.
I mean, I would disagree that.
Well, you're because God is omniscient.
Absolutely.
But what I'm saying.
You mean no human, like no mere human knows, right?
Well, yeah. So
Okay,
even in my scenario, if there's existence and there's no God, why couldn't a true statement be made? Like in a reality where there's no God, it's just a dot. The proposition the dot exists. Right, so we're not even looking at the mind. We're just looking at the proposition, right? The proposition that the dot exists would be true if, in fact, the dot exists. That is just an ontological statement. There's no need to jump into epistemology.
Well, I think we do because again, your statement of definition of truth was that which corresponds to reality. You're going to a situation that's not reality to comport to a truth statement. It's not reality that just a dot exists. So we can't even actually get into your definition.
Well,
hold on, let me explain this.
Okay, sure.
We can't get into the definition in this theory because it's actually not reality.
Okay, so but like to go back to my point with socks, whether you know my socks are on my feet or not aren't relevant to whether they are. You can make a truth statement about them. You can say that they either are or are not on my feet.
Sure.
That is a truth statement. And you are correct. My socks are either on or they are not. But that is not something you know. You do not know that. You admitted you do not know. So you do not need knowledge, and you don't even need to know that my socks are, that I even own socks necessarily.
I would disagree that I don't need knowledge for truth, but go ahead.
Okay, so to break this down. All right. So you know who Darth Vader is?
Yes, but I've never seen
Star Wars. Darth Vader. Okay. All right. Okay. Darth Vader either exists or he does not exist. That is a true statement.
False. He's a fictional character.
No. Okay. No. Listen to the whole.
That's what I'm saying.
Listen to the proposition. I just gave you the law of excluded middle. Okay. Like, there's no way that was false. That was a true dichotomy.
But it's not.
Like,
it's not.
It was reality. A direct negation of it.
It's contradicting your example. It's contradicting your truth. Your definition of truth.
No.
I said no. I said Darth Vader either exists. This is one proposition. Darth Vader either exists or he does not exist. Like the
Star Wars character.
Yes, it doesn't matter. You can put A or non-A.
Yep.
This is excluded middle. He either exists or he does not exist. That is a true dichotomy. It is necessarily true, biological necessity.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, regardless, you know that's a fictional character.
Sure.
All right. Okay, but let's say somebody from an alternate reality or some alternate dimension. He has no idea whether it's a true character or not. It could be, could not. However, he could look at that proposition because it's a true dichotomy. It is true.
Well, he wouldn't know if it's true if he didn't know who that was.
He would know
it doesn't matter.
He couldn't even be able to answer the question.
Okay, hold on. Do you know what the law of excluded middle is?
Yes, I understand. I agree with what you're saying.
So it's a true dichotomy. It has to be true.
But again, truth we've already defined is that which corresponds to reality. You're using a non-real fictional. You're using a non-real character for your example. It's not reality.
I think you're confusing this.
Yes, yeah. So,
I understand what he's saying, but it's not actually that which corresponds to reality.
We're not asking is the character real or do they exist in our reality. We're stating a fact, okay? The fact of the matter is Darth Vader either A, exists, or Darth Vader B, does not exist. Now, it does not matter whether he exists in reality or just in the realm of fiction or TV or books.
He doesn't exist.
Hold on. So you say he doesn't exist?
Yeah, he's not a real character.
That means the proposition is true,
right?
Because I said he either exists or he does not exist. That is the entire proposition. You're saying he doesn't exist.
It is one or the other. The law of excluded middle.
The proposition is true. It's the law of excluded middle. So so biological necessity, it has to exist. So you can have no information about the reality you're on. I give you a true dichotomy. It is necessarily true. It has to comport with reality.
I don't understand the. You're saying it's true that Darth Vader does exist since I denied it?
No. I said okay. Okay.
You're mixing the information up with the logical syllogism.
Yes, I'm asking a question for clarity because I don't understand right now.
Yeah, you're mixing up the law of it's okay. I mean, you can share your screen.
All right.
But just pointing this out, we're not talking about the information at the beginning of the statement. We're literally just saying A is equal to A or non-A, or like A is equal to non-A, right? Like it can't be.
So when he says this, he's saying the syllogism is true.
Yes, the law of excluded middle is truth.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that the syllogism is true as well. He either exists or he does not exist.
Right.
That is a true statement.
And if you have a true,
I got you. Yeah.
And if you have a true dichotomy, which would be the law of excluded middle, that's what it exists for, then you can know truth of the statement and it exists on its own.
Well, even then, I would argue that there are things that are contingent upon it. Again, truth being whether it's ultimate, absolute. There's no. This isn't a brute fact. There are things that we've already assumed that we know that we're bringing into this.
So, do you think a God exists?
I'll give you an example. I will give you an example.
Okay.
I will give you an example.
Okay.
According to your fallacy that you, or your true logical thinking, right? That you pointed out. The assumption is that that we haven't even discussed is that fallacies are wrong thinking. That it's wrong to think fallacious. We haven't even discussed it, but we've all assumed it into the question.
Well, so
there are things we're bringing
excluding
into
logic.
The question. Of course, I'm not. But I'm saying we haven't. There are. It's very true that we're talking about things that we're assuming certain things that we haven't even discussed. You guys are just saying it's only the syllogism.
No,
I just demonstrated.
Okay, so how about this? So like that proposition, so it took us a while to explain that. So for a while you weren't understanding it, right? So your epistemology of it was zero. The proposition that I had made was still true, right?
Sure.
Okay, even if I didn't understand it, the proposition would be true. If nobody understood it, so nobody understands this thing, everybody's epistemology is zero, the proposition would be true. Therefore, truth is merely ontological. There is not epistemic.
I would disagree.
Okay, but then what you're going to have to say is
I've already demonstrated that truth isn't a brute fact.
You stated that truth is a brute fact. You haven't demonstrated it because we're giving you an example in which we can provide you something that is true absent of knowledge. Now you need to. Go ahead.
I was going to say what you're going to have to say is that's you're going to have to say that proposition that I gave you, which is a true dichotomy, you're going to have to say that it was false if nobody knew it.
No,
which is nonsense.
What I was just arguing is because it seems like what you're trying to argue. Well, if there can be one thing that's true independent of itself, then I understand where the conclusion is leading. I understand what the conclusion is leading.
Well, my understand. What I'm saying is like if anything is contingent, it would be God. Like reality exists by logical necessity. It violates the law of identity, which violates non-contradiction. A lack of a God doesn't do that.
But I still don't know what statements. I don't know what you're defining as real. We haven't got to that point. I don't see how this syllogism defines what is reality. You haven't done that yet.
Well, that's what I was saying. So like, I'm not making any statement about the nature of reality. Here's the thing: it has no context to it. Whatever the nature of reality is, that proposition would be true. Darth Vader exists or does not exist in that reality. It doesn't matter which reality you put him in. He has to be one of those.
We do have to define what this reality is.
But okay, give me a reality where Darth Vader could neither exist nor not exist.
I'm not arguing for non-real things.
Okay, but what I'm saying is I'm trying to add, we're talking about truth here.
Sure.
Give me a reality. Give me some sort of reality. Give just an analogy or something.
That's why I'm asking you to define it.
Of a reality.
Well, that which is.
Yeah, I want a reality where that proposition would be false. Give me a reality where it
I'm
could
asking
be false.
you to define your reality, not for me to define your worldview for you.
Oh, well, I'm not talking about my worldview.
Okay,
I'm just
Triple A,
talking
stop.
So-
Just stop.
Okay. Okay.
This got awkwardly quiet.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's what. Was I stuttering or something?
No,
No,
you
you're fine.
paused. That
Oh, I paused? Oh, okay.
reality is defined as that which is.
Okay. Well, I'm not
That
sure.
which is what?
That which
that which
exists.
is which
Okay.
what is that
Yeah.
exists.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. So I want to say so. As long as if reality, it doesn't matter what it is, you can say it exists. You have the three laws of thought, and now you can start making truth statements. There is no reality that you could give me. There's no reality whether your God exists or not, where that proposition is false.
But all this assumes God doesn't exist.
No,
it
even if God
doesn't.
exists,
God,
It does.
God, no.
No.
God. Let's say God exists. Darth Vader the God is there. Darth Vader either exists or he does not exist. That is true. No God. Darth Vader exists or he does not exist. So any reality you give me, that proposition remains true. It is a true dichotomy. It cannot be wrong.
I would disagree with the syllogism you're placing upon God, because God, from my perspective, God is the necessary precondition for all intelligibility, logic. So God being eternal,
Ability is irrelevant.
Hold on, repeat that.
Intelligibility is irrelevant.
Sure, it is.
No, until that's just epistemology. Something could exist.
We're discussing epistemology,
Wait,
whether you believe so or not.
Wait,
But we are
before
discussing
you go down a rabbit
But-
trail, because I know the way this is going to go. Let me pause. Trust me on this. Did
Okay.
you say that God precursed logic?
I did not say that.
Okay.
I think you said he's a
Did
precondition of logic.
yeah, he came before logic did. Like
So, no,
God
I'm
exists,
arguing-
but logic did not exist yet.
That's not what I said.
Okay, well, can you clarify that? Because it sounds a lot like what you said.
No, logic is flows from God's nature. So we know what is. I would argue we know what is logical, because God is the epitome of logic and intelligibility, knowledge, truth, etc.
So does logic exist outside of God?
That's an irrational question.
Okay, so like you know the basic three laws of logic, right? Like A is either A or non-A, right? So like law of definition, A equals A. Law of excluded middle, A is either A or non-A. Law of non-contradiction, A cannot be A and not A at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so without those, without those three basic laws of logic?
I'm not saying without them. Why would I prove logic without logic?
That's what I'm asking. So
Yeah,
is
I think
logic
it's irrational.
So logic exists whether God exists or not.
No, since God is eternal, God is the eternal mind. He's the determiner. The logic flows from his nature.
But logic existed as well. So logic is also eternal.
Logic it flows from God's nature. There's not logic outside of God. God is the determiner of that.
Okay.
Again, hold on.
Okay.
You're asking me a question. You got to let me finish.
I'm sorry.
Both of you. It's like so truth does not exist apart from God. Morality does not exist. It's like asking, show me morality apart from God. Well, I think that's an absurd question.
I can do that. It'd be
From my
very easy.
position. Okay,
But
we can get into that.
Okay, we gotta get into that, because
Okay.
that's a good one. I feel like
But
this will just.
I feel like
kinda
before we
spiral
even
around,
get
but-
there, we have a problem because
We do.
you're saying logic
We do.
spawns from God.
Spawns. What do you mean by that?
It comes forth out of, flows from
His nature.
Sure, his nature, his brain, his mind, his heart, his blood. I don't really care what you put there. It doesn't change anything.
Well, we got to be accurate on what we're saying, because God
Okay,
doesn't.
we'll get to
doesn't have
specifically
blood,
why I
but-
refuse to use the word nature, because in a minute, but
Well, say
God.
it now, because that's what you're objecting to.
no, I'm not objecting to that. I'm objecting to where knowledge
so
or
nature.
logic comes from.
So God's nature.
What is God's nature?
God's nature. He's omniscient. He's
No,
omnipresent.
you're
He's-
giving attributes. I'm asking what is his
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah. That's his attributes define his nature. I
So
would
his
definitely
attributes
recommend
also
reading
include the three laws of
Charnock's.
logic.
Well, God is a logical being. Absolutely.
No, but God has logic and he uses logic. That's different
God
than
is
being.
logic.
God is
God
logic.
is.
So
God
God
is moral.
is
God
all
is
powerful,
truthful.
but also can die.
I mean, God
right? That's that's a law of non-contradiction. So I'm confused. My point is, God, by definition,
you're
the law
contradicting his nature.
No, the law of identity. How do you define God?
God is. I've already said God is eternal.
No. I'm asking, without the law of identity, how do you define God? Because that is the law of definition.
So you're asking me illogically to define God. I refuse to do that.
No, I'm asking without.
Question's absurd.
I'm asking.
I think I know
you're
what's going
asking
on.
me
So,
to commit a logical fallacy to define God.
so when you,
nope.
That's what you're asking me to do.
No, that's not what I'm asking. You're not listening.
Hey, Fasad, hold on.
So without the law of what you're saying, without this logical property, define God. That is a logical fallacy you're asking me to do.
Hey guys, so can I still man you, Kate?
Yeah.
So when you say that logic is a part of God, you're not saying like God like creates logic, like he will create trees. You're saying like it's some sort of immutable, inextricable part of his being. Kind of like for instance, like God couldn't like not be omniscient.
God. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want to say I can see how let's take one law, excluded middle. No God, this is going to be true, right? Tell me how does a lack of a God make the law of excluded middle false?
I don't understand the question.
So there's a proposition.
Mm-hmm.
And the proposition is, in quote, A or non-A, end quote. How is that false if there's no God?
With what in particular?
It doesn't. You could put anything there. Apples. Apples either exist or apples don't exist. That's the end of the proposition. That's the whole proposition.
And you're saying how
is
apples
that
or not apples?
How is that statement false without a God?
So from my worldview, I don't accept the possibility that God does not exist.
So
okay,
when you say it's not a possibility,
what you're doing is you're making a statement, and then we're giving you a scenario, right? We're saying A is either A or non-A, the law of excluded middle, which we agree is a truth statement.
Mm-hmm.
And we're asking you, because you're saying this is contingent upon God's nature, how would it be false if God did not exist? We don't care what the proposition is. It could be apples, it could be Batman, it could be anything you want to insert there. Because we're talking about the law of excluded middle.
Let me explain why. Because God is the creator of all things.
So did he create the law of excluded middle?
So you're asking about the properties that exist of God necessarily. God is a logical being. So therefore,
but that's not what I'm asking.
I'm explaining. So
but you're explaining something that's irrelevant to the question.
No, you're pretty much.
Let him finish.
So you're asking me, did a logical fallacy exist prior to God or apart from God or
without God? Can we commit logical fallacies?
I mean, you can commit logical fallacies with them.
Okay, but with a true dichotomy,
without God, there would. I mean, that. See, even that question is hard to answer because there is not that is never the reality.
Okay, how about this? So
and that's why I want to get into. So we're asking this question from a theoretical sense rather than what is. So we already talked about being that which corresponds.
Here's the thing. So this is what
this question. This is so theoretical.
But here it's not. It's actually very concrete, right? We talk about Darth Vader. He exists or he does not exist. That is
we're not getting to the reality of our worldviews.
We're talking about the basic premises of logic. That's it.
But I think even in your question of like, for example, with going all the way back to like the dot thing, right? Like even in your questioning, like you're assuming, right? You're assuming either that dot came into existence or it didn't come into existence.
No. Well, there's a difference in coming into existence and existing. Whether something exists or not is a true dichotomy. Something either exists or it does not exist. We can do the same thing. By the way, you can insert God into this, and it's still a true statement. God either exists or God does not exist. That is a true statement.
I think what Joe was asking or stating there was. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. So even in like the question,
you haven't talked enough.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. I like to listen and just collect the data. But even I from my perspective, even in your questioning of like this dot exists, right? Like I think you're still assuming that the dot either came into existence or it has always existed. And
it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant because
here's what I would say. It's not irrelevant, even from your own like admission. When you were saying that existed, like I think you said reality, right? You said reality has always been.
No,
like it just all.
We said reality is that which exists.
And maybe I misunderstood you.
I thought you did say.
I can break this down.
I thought you did say that.
Yeah, I thought you did say reality has always been, which would mean that, like, which would mean you would believe that the universe or like what is has always been.
I said reality always is. It doesn't mean the universe. But I can break this down with the dot. So I'm not assuming that the dot came into existence. Let's say the dot came into existence at like 12:30. The dot exists. That is true, right? Now let's say that the dot existed eternally. The dot exists. That is true. So whether or not the dot is eternal or came into existence is totally irrelevant.
But then you're presupposing that something can be eternal.
No, I'm not. So it doesn't matter. So let's say the dot exists and then it ceased to exist. I say the dot existed. That is true.
Yeah,
I'm not. Do whatever
Just,
you want about with the dot. The dot's totally irrelevant, whether it's eternal or temporal.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, what I'm saying is, if my point was, all you need is existence to make truth statements, not a God. It is whether the God. If there was a universe, wait,
just a God. Can you say that one more time? Can you say that one more time? What you just said. Sorry. All you need is.
So all you need is existence for there to be truth.
And then you said something else after that. Not a God.
You don't need a God to make.
You don't need a God. You could have a universe and it's just a God in it, and you can make truth propositions, but it has nothing to do with the God. You could just put anything there. You could put an apple there.
That assumes a lot.
That assumes. That's what we're saying. That assumes.
What is the assumption?
One, that truth doesn't come from God. That's one.
That is one.
That you have a logical mind apart from God.
One must demonstrate that truth comes from God.
There's a lot of assumptions in here.
There's not. So I'm not assuming that it comes from God. I'm asking for if I say that if there is an apple that exists, and I say the apple exists, is it true?
So this is what I'm actually getting at. We're just getting in the theoretical without addressing the real issue, our worldviews that we bring to this apple. We're all bringing in a worldview to interpret the world we live in.
We're all just touching the very basics of logic.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Like, see, when we talk about the basics of logic, like they're contextless. It doesn't matter what your worldview is, A or non-A.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
What worldview could you have when you have neither A nor non-A?
What worldview?
Yes. What could be the worldview?
In fact, go one higher and say have a world without definition.
A postmodernist. That's exactly who.
You said postmodernists. They have in their world. You could have no apples, and you could also have apples.
Yes, because in a postmodernist worldview, there is no such thing as absolute truth, which is the worldview you're bringing. That there is either A or B. That's an absolute statement fact. The postmodernist denies that. There is no absolute truth. So in their worldview, yes, there could be. I've ran into some. You talk about your guy Wesley. I've ran into some strange people who would say yes.
Okay, but that's not what either of us are saying.
So I just brought a worldview that would state that fact.
Sure, that is incoherent. If people are saying that is totally incoherent.
It absolutely is.
I mean, because it's an absolute statement to say there's no absolute truth.
All I'm saying is worldview does determine your outlook on how you see things.
It doesn't determine truth.
I wouldn't call that a word. Yeah, because
it is postmodern is a worldview for sure. I mean, that's why people believe you can be boys and man can be a woman, and it absolutely is a worldview.
So I think I see the issue, right? Because for you, the truth is that which comports to the mind of God, right? And so the mind of God, that's all knowledge. So you're looking at God's epistemology, and then you're making an ontological statement based off of that.
So yeah,
I'm not. I'm just looking at the reality of it.
Yeah.
So Do you know what Occam's razor is?
Yeah.
Do you see how you're violating that?
How so?
Because like, see, we know reality exists, and we know we can make true statements off of reality, but you're going farther than that. You're saying that there's reality, and then there's God's mind that's substantiating reality.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any proof of the God, but we know reality exists.
I would disagree.
So okay, so we'll get into that.
So
when
what proof would be valid for you as a you know, a good, you know, scientist? Would they have a hypothesis, right? You know, or they have a, you know, conclusion? They would have to have some kind of hypothesis. What would that look like?
I'm not the one
a God?
hypothesizing a God.
Yes,
I mean, you want proof. You would have to have some kind of theory of what you would accept.
Okay, can you define what your God is?
Yeah, I've done that multiple times. He's omniscient. But I'm asking you for
no.
I'm asking you for your hypothesis.
So anything that's omniscient is a God? Or do you need to get more specific? Because it seems like I bet you're going to go further.
Sure, but I'm asking you. I'm putting the ball in your court to define. Because you
I
say
the Judeo-Christian God. I say the Judeo-Christian God, which is the one I assume that you believe in, the God of the Bible, Christianity, etc. I would say I don't see good evidence for that God's existence.
So again, the question still stands.
Mm-hmm.
What is the evidence? Like what you're talking, like what kind of, like, what evidence would we accept?
Right.
Okay, sure. So
and this is where we're going to see the wheels fall off, because this is where you bring in your worldview on things like that. So,
sure. So if you had if you can make some sort of testable prediction from the God, like a novel testable prediction, I would consider that evidence. It may not convince me, but I consider it evidence.
So wait, so what would be
a novel testable prediction? So okay, like for instance, this is what we do in science, right? So like for instance, like when Einstein, he wanted to prove general relativity. Well, he didn't prove it. It was Edwin Hubble wound up proving it, but he made predictions, right? So he said, if my theory of general relativity is true, you'll see space bending around massive objects. He looked out and found that was evidence of it. So like, and it was not something that anybody knew was there. So if you could make a novel testable prediction, I would consider it evidence.
And you're saying that's just specific to not just that a God exists, but specifically what we believe as Christians, right? Because I think that's the distinction, right? Like
any sort of belief that you had, if you could make a novel testable prediction, that would count as evidence for me. That is the scientific method. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. This is the obvious problem I see. You want a natural, testable.
Nope. It doesn't have to be natural. So all it has to be a prediction. It doesn't have to necessarily be natural.
So flesh this out. I'm just a dumb kid from Louisiana. So let's flesh this out for me on what you're getting to, because I'm trying to understand the core of what you're talking about.
So like presumably, in order, like, I'm just a human, right? Presumably it'd probably have to be natural if I was to investigate it.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. It would have to be natural.
Okay, but I mean, that's not my fault. If you're making a supernatural claim,
exactly.
So you're saying that you have a supernatural claim. If you can make a testable prediction from it, whatever it is, I'll accept. So like I'm not saying it has to be natural. As long as I could see the prediction to verify that it was actually a prediction. No, it's not necessarily natural.
As soon as you say I got to see it, it is natural.
No. I mean, I don't have to visually see it. It could be some example of something like for instance, they make testable predictions all the time in quantum mechanics that you can't see with your own eyes. So,
but what I'm asking is, what would that be? You're theorizing again.
Sure. I'll count this. Here's something. So like Jesus, right? He predicted that his own death, right? Mm-hmm. He says, "I'm God. I'll raise back from the dead." Right? So if he was to do that and then come back from the dead, that would count as evidence. That wouldn't necessarily be proof, right? Because there's ways around that. Like, because coming back from the dead doesn't mean that you're God. There's other things that could explain it. I couldn't necessarily rule out other things, but you could count that as evidence, a testable prediction. And
so then we agree.
Yeah. So why don't you accept that as evidence?
So do you understand? So like, it's not sufficient evidence.
Okay, but
I don't even believe the resurrection happened.
really,
When it said,
why not?
So, yeah. So, and here's the thing. So I said it has to be repeatable, right? So
You have to do it again.
Well, then evolution, then by your own admission, right, is not
what do you mean?
sufficient evidence.
Yeah, no, evolution happens all the time. Evolution happens. So when genes are passed on, when genes replicate, they make copies of themselves. They don't always do so perfectly. There's mistakes that are made due to injuries, through the radiation, etc. Right? When those changes happen over a population, that is evolution. You can see that in real time.
That's macro versus micro.
No, it's not.
So when I talk about evolution, I'm talking about
mechanism.
It's an adaptation is not a evolution when it comes to like the creation of the world, right? The coming about whatever language you accept. I don't know what you will say.
If the adaptation happens over a population, that is evolution.
So when
if it happens to one organism, you just call it a mutation.
So when I speak of evolution, I'm speaking of the theory of creations from nothing to something, right?
That's abiogenesis. That's not evolution.
Okay,
so
wow, we were really in sync there. That was crazy.
yeah. And so evolution is just about genetic diversity, right? It explains how you have different populations of things that are pretty similar. Like we're all humans, right? And then but we're not exactly the same, but we're just humans. And you have things that are dogs, and they're all dogs. Right. It explains how things became genetically diverse.
Yeah, and that would be so the adaptation in our species, human, right, would be microevolution, right?
Well,
I mean, sure. So, like, you can. Yeah. So, if you want to,
there's no macro in a sense, like humans turn to dogs.
No, you would never see a human turn to dog. That would be that would disprove evolution. If you saw a human turn to a dog, there'd be no reason to expect to see that. I hear creationists say stuff like that all the time. Go read it. Go read a biology textbook, man. This is.
But they do that is the beginning of the atheistic Darwinian world.
No. You
Fish the philosopher.
No.
That absolutely is.
You can't. No.
I know you can't.
No. Evolution does not say that. If you were to ask Richard Dawkins, can a fish turn into a dog? He would tell you no.
Absolutely. So no fish to philosopher. No stardust to human.
So stardust isn't alive. You're talking about.
Well, explain.
You're conflating abiogenesis with evolution.
Okay, so explain me the difference in how that. So which one are you rejecting?
So I'm rejecting what you just misdescribed as evolution.
And it's not from stardust to humans or fish to philosophy.
So is stardust alive?
In what sense?
In the sense of being alive.
Yeah, sure, it's alive.
Stardust is not alive.
It has life.
In what sense? Can you define what life is?
That which exists, it's real.
Oh, okay. So rocks are alive, stars are alive.
Rocks have life.
Corpses are alive.
It's not dead.
Dead dogs.
Like dead dog.
The steak I ate yesterday.
It has properties.
Okay, but having properties isn't the same as being alive.
So how do you define life?
Are crayons alive?
How do you define life?
Okay, so all right, so
how do you define life?
To bring this to evolution, we're talking about.
Typically, I define life. It has several properties that include the possibility of reproduction, consumption, and energy burning. Typically, more than one of its species.
Well, can you guys explain in terms of evolution? Educate me real quick on what you mean by evolution and kind of how things came
versus biogenesis.
Abiogenesis is life from non-life.
So can you walk me through, like, for example, so we would say that God created all that exists, right? He created the earth, the universe, human, and right. So can you explain to me what you understand and what you believe about where everything came from?
Sure.
I think you believe in like the Big Bang, and then so what happened?
I do. So the Big Bang does not care about God. God is totally irrelevant. There can be a God. There's a Big Bang.
Okay.
There is a God. Big Bang. Totally irrelevant. So
So
Big
there's a
Bang.
big, so there was a Big Bang, and then from what you believe,
the Big Bang is just cosmic inflation. So if the space between us, we can look out in space, we can look at the space between us. It's expanding. It's expanding about 73.9 kilometers per second per megaparsec. Right, and that sounded like a mouthful, but a megaparsec, a parsec is just 3.26 light years. A megaparsec is a million parsecs. So for every million parsecs, the space is expanding about 74 kilometers per second. Right. So, and we figured that we knew that from Einstein's field equations, also by measuring the redshift from galaxies. So think about this. Einstein's field equations, they're just differential equations. So let's just go back in time, and then everything is smaller, right?
Yeah. So at one point there was nothing, and then
no, it's not. No. Doesn't mean there's anything. There was nothing.
Well, okay. So help me.
At one point,
yeah.
we get to a point called the Planck time, and Einstein's field equations break down. So there's never a nothing. We do believe there's a something. It's just Einstein's field equations start describing the universe with infinities.
Okay, so then there was always a something, and then from your perspective, just really kind of quickly, if you can, there was a something, and then there was, I'm just throwing stuff out there. There was stardust. There was water.
We stopped throwing stuff out there because there wasn't a stardust right before the Big Bang.
Okay, so
the universe was hot for
there was Starbucks.
There was Starbucks.
So I guess what I'm asking is like from what do you believe about how humans got here, how we got here?
Okay, so now we're talking about something different. I thought we were talking about the Big Bang.
Is that not relatable?
Well,
I mean, by the distance of about 13.799 billion years.
Yeah. So that's all I'm asking, though. I'm really not trying to be.
I mean, the problem is you're going into a cosmological argument and definition, and then asking about something that we suppose took place in the last 350 million years.
Because you're saying that you're saying that fish didn't turn into philosophers. You're saying that humans didn't evolve from I'm just asking.
You're not saying that?
No, I'm not saying a fish turned into a philosopher.
Okay.
No. Yeah, bro.
I don't mean
if you not literally a fish.
Okay. Yeah, over time.
Fish turned into things that had legs that eventually crawled up on land, that eventually turned into small mammals, that probably eventually turned back into things that were living in the ocean again, that eventually came back of the ocean, and then turned into small reptilian-ish animals that turned into things like birds, that also turned into things like small mammals that eventually turned into larger mammals that eventually turned into primates that eventually turned into the ancestors of humans that eventually turned into humanity, give or take the last 300,000 years.
So you don't see how that's so you don't see how
that's what I'm talking about.
All of that is connected. There was never a point where
so when you
first philosopher, we don't believe that.
You pretty much just said from
hold up. So if we want a straw man and we want to straw man the entire thing that I just said, we can do that. But what I'm saying is there's not infinite. There's a huge number of transitional forms that exists between
that.
Okay.
Hey, Fasad, I can shut this down really quick. All right.
Okay.
So do you accept DNA tests?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Repeat the last 10 seconds. You froze. My computer froze.
Okay, got you. So if you look at DNA tests, what they're doing, they're just looking at the strand and looking at common mutual changes that happen in your DNA, right? And so they go back far enough, and you and Chris have a common ancestor, right? And they go back far enough, and maybe you and I pop up. We might even be closer related than you and K-Dub, right? So
probably.
So they can keep going back in the DNA strand, and you know what? They'll find that you're related to a chimpanzee. It is literally the same method. You keep going back further, you'll find a gorilla. You keep going back further, you find a dog.
So
Right?
everything essentially derived from one point.
Yes, that is so. Abiogenesis happened once. That is what the DNA says. If you reject that, then you have to reject DNA testing altogether.
But how does having the same common denominator prove that there was an evolution of that?
So if I do a DNA test on a child,
Because we share 60%
Sure.
with a mouse, 80%, like 60% with a banana.
So if I do a
It's
DNA
just
test,
MTBK.
so if I do a DNA test on a child, and it says that half his DNA came from K-Dub and half the DNA came from K-Dub's wife, would that prove that that's your child?
But in here's the difference. You only have one common denominator in the example you're giving, not two. It's quite different than what you're.
No, it's not. It's not. It just depends on which one. It depends on which chromosomes you want to look at. No, it's not. So
the analogy doesn't fit. What I'm saying.
Okay, cool. All right. So we do a DNA test, and it shows that you're the father. Right? You can do that. All right.
That's it.
Okay, cool. And then
End
we
of
go back.
steps.
Yes, and then we go back farther, and it shows that your child and another guy has the same grandfather. That means they're cousins. And then you can go back farther, and it says you can go back even further, and it says you and another guy have the same great grandfather. All right, it's going to get to a point where you can do a DNA test with you and a chimpanzee, and y'all going to have the same great grandfather. Right. So if you reject that, you're just throwing out all of DNA testing.
So, but still, and I'm really not trying to be funny, but again, I'm a dumb kid from Iowa. So if what you're saying is true, then at one point, like you said, like I think you might have said sea creatures and lands. So at one point, we derive from sea creatures or whatever was before that to be us now. Fish the philosophers.
Well, no. So it was like the fish clay didn't exist yet, but yes, there was.
So clay is a philosopher.
Stardust.
I guess
whatever.
Right? Like you can't. Like you can't say that it's.
No, it's not. You just throwing out. So like.
I don't mean it to be.
So no, I mean.
I don't mean it. I don't mean it to be like it was a fish and then all of a sudden it's a human. But what you're saying is there was one point. And then this happened. This happened. So essentially, whatever that one point was,
we have a common.
We're connected to that.
We have a common ancestors with fish, with plants, with flowers, with germs. COVID, have a common ancestor.
And it makes sense to you that.
Yes. Well, no, COVID's a virus, but yes.
Viruses are very confusing. But.
Yeah,
and just for the record, it makes more sense to you that all of that happened, right? Like I guess I would say unguided.
Well, okay, no. Don't talk about whether it makes sense to me. Do you accept DNA testing?
No, I accept DNA testing.
Okay, then that is the proof. You're going to
there's a worldview you're bringing into today.
Right?
No. So here's it. The DNA proves that you're the father. It also proves that we all have a common ancestor, right? If it makes no sense. You're by definition irrational. It's just confirmation bias. If you're going to accept the DNA testing that the kid is your father because of the DNA, but then you're going to reject the DNA says that everybody has.
Let me just quantify this really quick. Let me quantify this really quick because, I don't know as much about DNA as you do. I don't need a DNA test to know that my son is my son. I don't need to accept the DNA test.
That's totally irrelevant to the question.
How would you?
Hear me out. Wait, hear me out. You asked me. So you asked me, how would I prove that it's my son?
No, I didn't ask that.
Well, he did.
No.
I did.
Okay, sorry.
So
you can answer.
Let's not.
He's the only one having sex
it doesn't
with
matter.
wife.
Let's not address it because it's irrelevant to evolution. Like I think it'd be just. I think it'd be a monumental waste of time for you to go there.
Yeah, sure.
What I'm pointing out is
DNA testing and what you're saying. I don't know the ins and outs of DNA. I have no problem to say I don't know the ins and outs of DNA, right? And I think this is relatable to what you were saying though about because he asked the question about my son. I don't need to know about DNA to know it's my son, right? Like I don't have to know
this is a monumental.
I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't.
Let me ask this question: doesn't
you-
DNA get more difficult to determine the further you go back? No.
It doesn't.
No, you just extrapolate. I mean, sure, you could say like it take you have to look back further. You have to extrapolate further. So
the reason why
it takes longer for me to travel an inch.
so
Then
the reason why I'm asking this isn't a gotcha as well. I was just recently watching a debate. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Black Hebrew Israelites. So
we want to get him on
Black
the show.
Hebrew, what's that?
I want to get him on the show.
Oh,
And hey, Wesley, he's in.
that would be epic. But one of the things that so I was watching this debate, and the premise of their position is that we're the Black Hebrew Israelites because we're Jews, right? And another guy that brought up DNA. Well, and the Black Hebrew Israelite had a good point, and then the geneticist, or he wasn't a geneticist, but he knows the geneticist, and there's no like Jew gene to determine if you're an actual Jew. So
that's like there because like race is a social construct. There's no black gene or white gene.
So the point he was making, it gets once you go further back, it gets harder to determine certain things, ancestry, things like this, right? It gets a lot more difficult. Similarities doesn't mean actual lineage or something like that.
But we're not talking about similarities. We're talking about genes.
It's not similar. They'll look at a strand and it's identical. It matches identical. So that's what we're looking at. This isn't something. Not saying this kind of looks like this other thing.
So we have the identical DNA as an ape.
You have 50% of the DNA of your parents.
Yeah, so 99% of your DNA is identical to that of a chimpanzee, which means it came from the same place.
But what about a banana?
Yeah, what about a banana?
So at some point...
No, hold on. No, I don't even know where we're going with this.
I mean, the question is... I can tell you because I was paying attention. Earlier, he said humans and bananas share about 60% of their DNA. The point is...
40 to 60%.
Either... pick a number. It's not... I don't care. You can settle on any number you want. It doesn't matter. At some point, humans and bananas had a common ancestor. That is the answer that's going to be the same for chimpanzees and bananas and whales and dogs and
anything that's alive.
Anything that we have.
I really don't want to spend too much time on evolution. I
want to ask this question. Would it be immoral for me to squash a banana?
No. I guess that depends on your stance on morality and where you get it from. But we can
go
there.
You would you throw me in prison for 60 years?
Oh, that was my moral.
It's nothing to do with morality, though.
One person, because I can't really hear what you want to say.
I just want to clarify that before you go any further, because that legality and morality aren't the same thing.
Okay, well,
you said will we throw you in prison versus is it moral?
Well, would you say morality or legality flows from what we believe is moral?
Sometimes
it does. Sometimes it doesn't. But
it's not immoral.
Stepping on a banana is not immoral. No.
Okay, stepping on a banana is not moral. Would it be?
It's
wrong?
not immoral.
Yeah. That's what I said or meant to say. Would it be immoral to step on? I'll take you out of it. Would it be wrong to step on random person X here?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because it violates his well-being. But
aren't we essentially stepping on the common ancestry?
Yeah, that doesn't. I don't see why that matters. Like, aren't we simply stepping on the image of God?
We're all the same. God. We're all the same.
We're all we all came from God. We're all the same. I mean, I just like. Well, it doesn't matter. So,
being created from God doesn't make you God. So it's quite different than your analogy.
I mean, but sure. Like, if you don't care about the thing, there'd be no incentive to like respect his rights. So, like, I step on God. I don't care. It's not. I'm not gonna.
I'm not gonna sue you for stepping on a banana.
Well, yeah. So
at least I don't think so.
So for me, morality is about well-being.
Whose well-being?
Well-being of all conscious creatures.
Who determines that?
So it's analytic.
What do you mean by that?
So it's definitional. So when I say well-being, I'm talking about. When I say morality, I'm talking about well-being, and that is generally what people mean when they say it. First, like the reason why we have morality in the first place is because your actions have consequences, right?
Who's we?
people, humans. They're on.
Okay.
Yeah. So beings, not even just humans, just beings that exercise morality, because chimpanzees show more moral behavior along with dogs and a lot of animals. All right. So the reason why there is morality is because our actions have consequences, right? And they don't occur in a vacuum, right? There are things that I can do that affect your well-being negatively, that could end your well-being, right? So there need to be rules governing my behavior.
But doesn't that assume certain actions are good and bad inherently?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say it's inherently. It's based on the consequences of it.
But you determine the consequences based on what you deem that action is good or bad.
No,
I'm not tracking.
There.
Yeah,
so you learn the consequence before you actually deem the action good or bad.
Well, yeah,
no,
sort of.
Hold on, no. He's confusing things. He's confusing epistemology and ontology again. Don't let him get away with that. All right. Okay. So, all right. So
I'm not confusing anything.
Okay. No. You were talking about how we define morality.
By the way, my question was based on what was said, not even my ontology or epistemology. It was based on what was said.
Sure. So I was explaining to you how objective morality works, right? But you do not get that with God. I don't know if you saw the last episode where we talked about when we had Joseph up here. He couldn't explain to us why raping children would be wrong under his model.
I definitely will.
You did not.
You refused. We straight up asked you on several occasions.
Yes, we asked you several times, and you couldn't explain it to us.
You're talking about.
We're talking about
God. Right?
I asked you,
could God morally rape a child?
Children?
Yeah.
And you were just
dodging
the question.
Yeah. Okay, ask me then. I'm ready.
We will go.
Here, let me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, can God morally command the rape of children?
No.
Why not?
Because God's not a rapist.
That's not relevant. He can command things, right?
I said it goes against.
No.
Stop! Everybody's talking at once.
I said it goes against
nature. The question.
He didn't answer the question. All right.
I did.
So,
I literally answered the question.
Okay. No. Here's
I said no.
I said why not?
Because God's not a rapist.
Okay. So here. All right. Check this out. If you were to ask me, could I morally rape children? Of course, I can't do that. Right? Why? Because it violates the well-being. Saying that because I'm not a rapist has nothing to do with that. Yeah, even if I was a rapist, it wouldn't be moral to rape children. Yeah. So even if God was a rapist, it would be immoral to rape children.
The point I'm making is his because I've already kind of discussed this when we talk about logic. What God commands flows from his nature. So yes, he's not a rapist. So that way. So again, God commands truth because he's truthful. He commands you not to lie.
God commands slave owners.
No, don't go to slavery.
Yes, go there. Please go there. Please go there. I love slavery. I love to get in that topic.
The Bible loves slavery too. But what I was going to say,
you guys have no clue what you're talking about when it comes to slavery. Really? Atheists have no clue.
Okay. So. All right.
The Bible actually condemns man stealing.
Stick with the well.
So there's a difference in no. Stop. Pause. Throw the flag on the play.
He got this wrong. So he's misinterpreting things. So he said the Bible condemns man stealing. That has nothing to do with slavery.
It talks about how you think they got slaves. That's how you got slaves.
You can buy them.
Yes, exactly. And it says you can buy them from the heathen among you.
There's different kinds of slavery.
Right?
I generally
slavery
is condemned in the Bible.
No, it's not.
Condemned in the Bible.
Absolutely. That's how you got. You got chattel slaves.
Can you show me where it's condemned in the Bible?
I just showed you.
Where?
Don't man steal.
That's not what chattel slavery is. We just talked about kidnapping versus slavery.
So,
that's how.
Okay, wait, pause. Before either of you go any further. Stop. Before you go further, please. Before you go further, please. K-Dub, before you go further, please.
My guy, relax. Relax. This conversation's over. Relax. I'm trying to explain a question.
I'm asking something before you go any further. That's all I was trying to do. Because
I can only answer one question at a time.
Okay, but I was the only one talking.
Guys,
I was still explaining my position.
Let him finish.
Yeah.
Talk. Whoever wants to talk.
You know what? Since what you have to say is way more important. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Stop. Look, I mean, I was having fun with this. Like,
so was I until he got heated. He's acting like his screen, his thumbnail.
Okay, guys. Look, like, let's keep it respectful. Like, so when you said the Bible prohibits man stealing, right? Okay, do you realize that is not the only way to acquire slaves? Just like
that's what I said.
Okay, but just stealing a car isn't the only way to acquire a car.
Hold on a second.
So prohibiting car stealing doesn't prohibit owning cars.
So
we don't know my question. You didn't let me finish. So go ahead.
But, guys, come on. Let's keep it civil, man.
I was just trying to get a definition before we went too far down the rabbit hole, but nobody wants to let me talk. So go ahead and talk. Can K-Dub define chattel slavery, since you seem to have a different definition of it than man stealing?
I don't have a different definition of it.
Okay, so can you define chattel slavery for me?
So it would be up to your compadre to define it.
No. So I'm asking you to define.
You just agreed.
All right.
Okay, so I asked you to define it, and you said ask my friend to define it. I'm asking how do you define it?
That's actually not what happened. That's not what was just said.
I literally just asked you, and you said it's up to your compadre.
Guys, enough with the meta discussion.
You literally just said those exact words.
There was something that became before that you're leaving out.
It was a misunderstanding. Okay, so let's say so chattel slavery is the owning of people as property. That is what chattel slavery is, right? And that is supported in Leviticus 25:44. Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves. You may also buy some temporary residents living among you, and they will become your property for life, right? Now, in Exodus 22, it outlaws man stealing. You couldn't take a free person and then kidnap them and then sell them into slavery. The point is, kidnapping a free person is not the only way to acquire a slave. Sure, you can buy a slave.
I've already agreed.
So you had said that the Bible condemns slavery, and this was just categorically false. Because to think about the Portuguese were doing.
Let me be more full. Okay. The Bible condemns chattel slavery, and that we know it in the American West.
So what was going on with chattel slavery? So you had Africans; they would conquer a village, enslave them, and then sell them to the Portuguese.
Correct.
So the Portuguese wasn't capturing people; they were just buying. They were buying their slaves from the heathen among them. Mm-hmm. All right. You notice I use the same language that's coming from the Bible.
So what happened in the West, in America, was a violation of what the Bible calls for.
So
not a condoning.
What part does American slavery violate?
How about killing them?
Killing them?
Okay, well, we're talking about ownership, not murder.
Yeah, but we're talking about ownership.
Yeah,
so
but how they treated them is actually relevant to the situation.
Okay.
So the Bible says you can beat them in Exodus 22. Long as they don't die.
No, it does not.
Yes,
no, it doesn't.
No, you just haven't read it.
Yeah, I've never read the Bible before.
Exodus 22. Let's Exodus 22 when it says you can beat them as long as they don't die.
Okay. And let's see if it says what you just said. It gives you permission to beat them.
No, it's not permission.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
So what
it's actually getting it is the punishment. The punishment is you can't kill someone if they just beat the slave and they don't die. So you don't give them death for that. But there is
no punishment at all.
I'll just get to it. It's fine. I'll just get to the verse. Exodus chapter 21, verse 20. And who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result, but they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property.
Mm-hmm.
So according to that, you can beat them.
No, that is not what is actually being said.
Okay,
that is not actually what being said.
If they don't recover, is there a punishment?
The punishment isn't death. That's the whole context.
No, there is no punishment. It says they're not.
Exodus 21. What again?
21, 20, and 21. You could start at the first verse if you'd like, which starts with these are the words of the Lord which God commanded.
Mm-hmm.
They are not to be punished.
No, let me show you how you're. This is why you need to.
They are not.
Listen, this is why you need to start the context. These are death laws. This is in the context of death.
No, it's not. It's in the context of slavery.
Start at the verse 12. You will see what I mean and read down. They're all punishments about death. They are all punishment. So the point is, you don't put the slave owner to death if he hasn't killed a slave. That's the punishment it's referring to.
No. Here's the thing. It doesn't say they are not to be put to death. It says they are not to be punished.
That's because it's in the context of death punishment. You read up. That's what it's talking about.
No, it's not, because even in verses.
Let me show you. Let me show you, my friend. Let me show you. Verse 12. That's a man being put to death. Verse 14, put to death. 15, 16, 17. 18 is where he starts getting about 18, and then verse 20 it's not saying
19 is not talking about death anymore.
Yeah, neither is 20 or 21 or 22 or 23.
The point I'm making,
your point. This doesn't make any sense according to the text.
Absolutely,
it says death, and then it says punished.
Right.
So the punishment isn't death. And then it goes to the next verse, and it says, "But no. But then it goes,
you don't kill him if he hasn't killed anybody."
Sure, but then it goes to 21, and it says they are not to be punished.
Right, because
So what's that got to do with death? I'm confused. It's not a death verse anymore.
We're talking about punishment here. You're reading into
death punishment.
You're eisegeting right now. This text doesn't say this. It says punishment.
The text clearly doesn't say that.
You're reading this into the text.
No, I'm actually that's why you guys started at just the verse. I actually read the whole context. That's exegesis, my friend. I could teach you a little something.
But the point is, exegesis, the death is not in that verse. Okay.
I know it's not. That's the point I'm making. The point I'm making is this is in the context of putting people to death. So the punishment being avenged for is talking about death. Yes, you don't kill a person who hasn't killed another person.
Okay, let's.
It's not saying there's no punishment at all.
Paul,
right.
It does say no punishment.
Yes, Paul said, this is what the slave.
No. I wasn't even going there. I said pause because I can't get a word in edgewise. My point is, it doesn't matter if it's in the context of death or not. What it clearly says in the verse right here is that if you beat your... This is why you should read. Are you going to let me finish the sentence?
Go to verse 23.
All right, you go ahead. Wherever you want to go.
If there is harm, you shall pay him life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand. So guess what? If you do beat your slave and cause damage to his hand, you get your hand beat.
No. You're wrong. 23 is about a woman's husband being injured. This isn't
literally starts in verse 22.
If people are fighting and hit a pregnant woman, are you reading this?
Okay,
are we reading the same Bible?
Read verse 26 and 27.
26, yeah.
This is the point I'm making. It wasn't like, oh, everything's fine.
So,
you beat a slave, everything's fine.
Sure. And then it says if an owner, if you destroy his eye, then it's not going to recover in a day or two. So that makes sense. So then but then it's not an eye for an eye. He's just let go free.
Okay, so there is a punishment. You lose your actual slave that you paid for.
That's not what we're talking about.
If you destroy their eye,
it's not.
Then you have to let their slave free.
Okay, fair enough.
But you can beat them, and as long as they recover in a day or two, it's fine.
No, it's not.
That's what it says in verse 20 and 21.
If you just,
it doesn't say it's fine. You added that's exegesis. That's exegesis.
Okay, so there's no punishment
That's
for it.
approval to the action.
So let's look at.
That's what you're saying. It gives approval to the action.
Okay, we'll talk about the text. So all right. So here's the text. If you beat your slave and he recovers in a day or two, he's not punished
for death.
Well, no. It doesn't say.
It doesn't say for death.
You're adding that.
It's in the context of death.
No, you can't exegesis. If I can't exegesis, they'll be fine. You can't exegesis death on this verse.
That's because
it doesn't say death either. So pick one.
It literally is in the context of death.
So pick one.
It's not in
either it's okay or it's not about death or it's not both.
So no. But he just said the whole chapter's talking about death, but here we're talking about someone destroys their eye, which isn't going to kill them. You let them go.
Or foot or tooth.
And then in the verse before, then it's talking about being harmed and somebody giving birth prematurely.
So you're actually saying the Bible's saying in this context, if you beat a slave, mess his eye up, everything's all good.
No. If you destroy his,
that's my point.
If you just read the context like we just did.
Stop. So you're
Thank you.
Stop. Hold on. You're changing the point. So we already conceded. If you destroy, no.
The point was it's fine. Joe, didn't he say that? Before he went to the text, he said the Bible says it's okay. It's more.
Right.
No, we literally read you the verse that says if you destroy his eye. We literally read you the verse to start. If you destroy his eye,
that was your point.
No, because that's not the point. We literally pointed out the verse in which it says if you destroy the eye, you have to let them go.
I'm about to go to your channel and play this again.
Hey guys,
please do.
Hold on. Hey guys, no, hold on. I think this is just some miscommunication going on, or I hope. So when I said that it allows you to beat your kid, beat your slaves. So I meant it colloquially, just like if there was no punishment for murder, if someone said you can murder people, that would be roughly equivalent to that statement. So that's kind of what we're talking about. So now here.
That's weak.
That's okay,
weak, man. No, allowing mean is a permission. It's okay for you to do it. If I allow you to speak, sure, you have the permission. If I allow you to go next door, you're able to do that. It's okay.
Okay. So let's get to this. So when it says you beat your slave and he doesn't die within a day or two, he recovers within a day or two, he is not to be punished. Why? Why is he not to be punished?
Because you're not to put him to death.
No, that's not what it's. That's not what I asked.
Because he didn't die.
No, the reason why he isn't. No, the reason why he isn't punished is because the slave is his property.
That's not why.
That is trap. That is what the. Okay, let's read the verse
again.
But they are not. No. Hold on. Let me read this verse. You're wrong. He says, but they are not. He says, but they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. Mm-hmm. That is what I just said verbatim. So if you're disagreeing with me, then you're disagreeing with the Bible.
So here's what I'm disagreeing with on the issue of. So one, it's laid out death punishments on each point. It's laid out death reasons why you are to put someone to death, and the issue why you're not to put him to death is because he didn't die. So therefore, you're not supposed to put a slave.
Yeah, so I don't want to keep. I think you're just saying the same thing that you had just said. Like we're not going to agree on this because the text doesn't say this.
It absolutely does. That's why it gives you the. That's exactly why it gives you the punishment that the slave master is supposed to receive a little later. I mean, come on, man. I mean, look,
okay. Leviticus 25, 44, and 46. No one said anything about not like the Bible.
Oh, wait a second. You're not going to jump over the next point after you just missed this one.
Same point.
Same
point.
I didn't want to stay here for too long because we're not going to agree on this.
Also, mine was the same point.
But the Bible says it.
I mean, it does not.
It does.
It says death in another verse, and then you're applying
literally
it
a couple verses later. See, what you're trying to do is disconnect one verse. The Bible didn't have verses. This might be a surprise. The Bible didn't have chapters when it first came out. So it's not like you can disconnect one verse because it's not a verse.
Yeah, so I can give you the context. So this
gave it to you.
Yes,
you didn't want to hear it again.
These are statutes, right? And it's giving you a list of laws.
Right.
You're not going to be looking at another law and be like, hey, this law about rape says this. So now we're going to apply it to the same murder. That's just not how you read law.
I gave you the law about slavery. I didn't apply it to something else.
You took the law about killing people.
Okay.
And now it talks about somebody recovering within a day or two, right? And it was clearly saying over and over again that the punishment was death, very clearly. And then it goes to they are not to be punished. It doesn't mention death at all. And then later on, it starts talking about death again.
So you think what it's saying is, not this part. Is that your interpretation?
It's in the verses in the middle.
Let me make sure. It's in the context of death, and you think, my bad. Just let me scribble that in there, and then we'll go back to death. That's your point?
It's not in the context of that. The context is a person's beating their slave.
All around it.
The context is the person. It doesn't matter what's around. I mean, you can keep going. Like Genesis is around Exodus. Genesis is around Exodus. I mean,
it's a whole nother book. That's not what I'm talking about. This is in the same writings, literally 2 seconds later. It's not like I'm importing this from somewhere else and putting that there.
Yeah, okay. This is the first
time
I've looked at the commentary. This is just.
You're to read some other commentaries.
I've read a bunch
where I got
of
it
them.
from.
Well, tell me what commentary? What's the name?
Matthew Henry Solid.
Matthew Henry doesn't say that.
G.K. Bill.
You're wrong. Matthew Henry doesn't say that. But your memory is going, or your intention.
Okay, so
Matthew Henry does not say that.
Okay, well, let's say I'm the only person that's ever said it. It's still a valid point, I believe.
I mean, it's a wrong one.
But I've got this.
It's a point. It's an incorrect one.
How about this? it could be true regardless if anybody knew it. Because
There you
truth is
go.
ontological. All right. So
All right, before we get really late on this, can we move to a topic?
so
I want to know about atheistic morality.
atheist. So atheist morality is based
Well-being.
on well-being.
Yeah.
How do you know what well-being is?
So well-being is about security, it's about happiness, it's about wealth, not talking about money.
Financial,
It's about access to resources, health, etc. That is.
Isn't that subjective though?
No,
it's not.
Like no, because for instance, like health, like you need water. There's nothing objective about that. Nothing subjective about that. You need water. That's a fact.
But some people would, because like now you have the whole movement of free healthcare. They would say, hey, that is additional to health. So what I'm saying is, some people say all I need is water and food and shelter. I'm good. But someone's like, I need healthcare and I need all this, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So those are all moral things. Healthcare is a moral thing. That's necessary.
But that's more than just water.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't define well-being as just water. I included
fair enough.
health, wealth, security.
But what I'm showing is that differs from person to person.
No, it doesn't. Everybody, there's certain things that everybody's going to need. And let's say if I were to change
shelter,
yes,
doesn't matter.
Sure. If I would have changed your physiology where you didn't need water, you now needed crude oil or something. Now it would be within your well-being to have crude oil. Right. Regardless of whatever your body needs, having access to it to preserve your health is part of well-being.
Yeah, so that's when you would say, so for example, someone murdering someone, you would say, hey, it's objectively wrong because that affected their well-being, right? Like that.
It's
also analytic. Murder is defined as a type of immoral killing, so you kind of being redundant here.
Yeah. So so it's immoral because of that. So then, what should happen to a person who kills another person?
I don't know that.
Should they be punished?
Well, sure, they should be punished, but it depends on the circumstances.
Does them being punished, is that good for their well-being?
Yes, it depends. It depends on what the punishment is. This is very broad. You didn't give me a lot of detail.
That's what I'm saying. Well-being. I'm saying well-being cannot be the standard.
Yes, it is. If you execute the person, obviously it's not good for their well-being. You're about to ask if well-being is the standard. Who decides it?
Yeah. Who defines well-being?
This is the problem I wanted to get to from the beginning, because y'all kept mixing up epistemology and ontology. Regardless of whether or not you know a act is good for somebody's well-being, it either is or it is not. So you have objective morality.
So you do agree morality is objective?
It's y'all who don't have the objective morality.
I would disagree with that. Richard Dawkins says that there is no such thing as good or evil, only blind, pitiful indifference.
Yeah. So here's the thing: atheists don't listen to Richard Dawkins the way y'all follow the Bible and stuff. I don't.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. So he means nothing to me. So,
you appealed to him earlier for the.
No, I didn't.
You didn't appeal to him later about the.
We're talking about evolution.
So you did appeal to him.
I mean, it's evolution. Not a big deal.
I
didn't say anything about Richard Dawkins. No, we were talking about evolution. I didn't say anything about Richard Dawkins.
You never mentioned this. Are you saying this is the first time you brought up Richard Dawkins?
I will say
I don't recall. Maybe
earlier he said you could ask Richard Dawkins would a fish turn into a dog, and he would laugh at you.
Oh yes, because he's a biologist. This has nothing to do with his view on atheism.
Sure.
Evolution has nothing to do with.
It was written in his. This was written in his book on evolution.
How about as Christians, y'all should stop bringing up evolution to atheists. It has nothing to do with it. You can have evolution and still be a god. You can have the guy who discovered the Big Bang.
I would disagree.
The guy who formulated the Big Bang, he was a preacher.
Yep.
So
there have been all sorts of Christians who formulated silly ideas that atheists agree with.
But I want to say evolution contradicts the biblical account. It doesn't contradict a God. If you look at Genesis 1 and interpret that literally, then there's the contradiction. but it doesn't necessarily contradict a belief in God.
So yeah, you could have a general God. So I'm not arguing for general bare theism. I'm not arguing for mere Christianity or mere theism like William
Sure,
Lane Craig
you're arguing
is
for
or something.
the Christian God.
Yeah,
Sure.
like William
And so-
Lane Craig. That's the
That's totally irrelevant. What we need,
I do think
no,
it's
but
relevant.
no. What matters is if you interpret Genesis 1 literally.
Sure.
If you don't do that, it can still be a Christian God, and you could have evolution.
I would disagree.
It wouldn't be the
Why?
Christian God. So if you don't, so if you don't interpret Genesis 1 literally, then you're not a Christian.
You're being inconsistent with your Christian profession.
Okay, but you still worship Jesus, right?
That's irrelevant. That's not the point I'm making.
Okay, but you can still be. What I'm saying is you can still be.
I mean,
Christian.
you could be a Christian and believe flat Earth. I mean, all silly sorts of things.
Yeah, so
But
it's
that-
totally irrelevant.
But no, it's not real. It's so you're disconnecting what the Bible says a Christian should believe. So you're looking at this from more of a theoretical, abstract view, where I'm looking at it from the Bible as being the source of what defines a Christian and what we are to believe.
Okay, I mean, it's
Not just a theoretical. Oh yeah, there could be
right.
a God exist in Genesis 1 evolution.
So do you think all the Bible is literal?
No, the Bible tells you that
Okay.
Okay, sure. So
it is
So-
literal according to its genre.
Okay. So
The Bible
my
says
point
Jesus
like,
is a door. Doesn't
my
mean he
point-
has hinges on and
Mhm.
a doorknob.
right. So my point is there are parts of the Bible in which you can interpret literally, and some in which you don't have to interpret literally.
Like what?
I'll be back.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you
Oh,
just
yeah,
said
yeah.
like
Obviously,
Jesus is
yeah.
a door.
Yeah, for
For
sure.
instance, like Jesus isn't literally a door.
Correct.
So obviously that's not something you would have to take literal.
Sure.
So what about a person who's claiming Christianity who just says that Genesis 1 is a well-told story of how the world came about, but it's not meant to be taken literally, just like the story about Jesus being a door isn't meant to be taken literally.
Well,
I'm just
so the
I'm
problem-
asking here. I'm not arguing. I'm
No,
not
I-
pointing the fire.
I
I'm
get you.
asking.
No, yeah, I get you.
You see you up there
you're pretty
shaking your head, Joseph. I seen you.
You're pretty much asking how would I respond to that?
Yeah,
not
like,
trying to-
let's say hypothetically, a Christian
You're not putting
says
me
like,
on the stand.
no, yeah, I'm genuinely asking. Let's say there's a person, never met him before, I don't know him, you don't know him, just says, hey, I'm a Christian, I don't interpret Genesis 1 as literal because I accept the evidence for evolution as the diversity of life on the planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that God, the Christian God specifically, that inspired Genesis 1, set in motion the things and events necessary to allow evolution to happen. How would you approach that person?
Yeah, there's a couple problems with that from what you said. Hopefully you get what I'm saying from what you're saying this person would say to me. One thing I would tell them is that sounds very similar to deism. The Christian God is not a deistic God where he just sets things in motions and that's it. Two, if evolution is true, you have God, you don't have a direct creator. You don't have a direct creator. Maybe three things. You don't have a historical literal Adam, which the Bible connects that first Adam with the second Adam. And so you don't have a first Adam, you don't have a second Adam either. And so that's what I would challenge the person who holds to some kind of form of Christian evolution to. And point four, I would say Genesis is also written in a largely historical account. And so it would seem that the point that this is a historical thing, that a thing in time in history that's happened that the author of Genesis is trying to communicate, not some just story that he's trying to make an illusion or allegory about.
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree. I think the people like, for instance, like William Lane Craig. Yeah, he rejected a literal Adam. Well,
right,
and what that goes into is the Adam. You can see Adam's genealogy mentioned in Abraham, then Abraham to Jesus, right? And so you run into other problems. I mean,
so ultimately, what I'm getting at is super inconsistent.
So I have a question in general for you, if you don't mind. Would you say you're a biblical inerrantist?
Yeah, I believe the Bible's inspired by God,
and it's without any error.
Yeah. So depends what you mean by that.
error.
It's
Like
this was
something,
without error.
a statement that's false.
Yeah,
Statement
so the Bible
that
records
misrepresents-
lies.
Incorrect. Well, I mean, I'm not asking like, is it documenting that someone lied to someone else? I'm asking,
Yeah.
does it make a statement of fact or make a statement in
Yeah, I believe
general
the Bible's
that is
true.
fallacious?
I believe
Talking about the mustard seed.
No, I'm not even going to go there. I'm just asking, like, in general, like, you don't think
Why
there's
not
any
go?
errors?
Let's go there. It's
Well, I
wrong.
mean, we can. Like,
Okay,
for
okay.
instance,
I don't
Jesus
think we
says
can
that the
answer
mustard seed is the smallest of all seeds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can go there. I think it's a really quick wrap up, but so
Let's
that's
do it.
Okay. Jesus said,
Yeah,
that
he
the
says
mustard
the
seed is
What's
the
smallest
smallest
seed
of
is
all
the
seeds.
you know the
seed.
problem? What's the answer?
My answer?
Yeah.
What's
what's
yeah?
the-
What's
Yeah, so I-
y'all ever giggling like you got the answer? Like
I didn't giggle.
well, Joe's been.
No,
I don't know.
What's
Okay,
the
so
answer?
By the
what
way, I
is the
generally
answer?
laugh at a lot of. So
No,
so
yeah,
my answer-
I like conversation, so I'm just smiling.
My
I'm not-
answer that
What's the answer though?
Yeah, so my answer that I would give that this was the smallest seed that the Jews used, and so this was Jesus was talking about out of the seeds they used.
No, they use poppy seeds. Poppy seeds are smaller.
Poppies definitely existed in the area.
Yep, sure.
And Jews use this,
Well,
and during that time,
well,
they've been around for millennia. So
that's
Yeah.
well, that's the point I'm making. It's not about smallest seed that existed; it's out of what they used.
well, it does. A, it doesn't say that, and B, even then, like if they're aware of the poppy seed, they could use the poppy seed, which is smaller than the mustard seed.
Again, that would not be what I'm talking about. No one's arguing that there were smaller seeds.
Well, that's what Jesus said.
Well, again, this is assuming that he wasn't
Yeah.
referring to his.
So
Again, put it like this: there's a way to make it just actual.
Ancient
lineup.
Israel used poppy seeds, so
Okay.
your defense is falling apart.
What source do you have?
I can send you a link.
Mm-hmm.
1 second.
I mean, we know that, in fact, poppy seeds can cause things like opioid effects, and they've been used in medicine historically for.
I posted it in the YouTube chat. I don't know how can you send the chat over here?
I don't know.
You can send a whiteboard or a message to chat with everyone down at the bottom of the screen. Do you see it by the people where it should
I
show
do.
everyone? Chat with everyone?
I do.
Okay, you can
Yep.
just send it there.
Oh.
There you go. Yeah, so I mean, like poppies have been known for opioid effects. It wouldn't surprise me if they were used for medicine, medicinal purposes. They were used for embalming. They were used for pain numbing. They've been around for a long, long time. We're aware of it, even in Egyptian culture.
Yeah.
So this is something that's been around prior, like by several thousand years prior to Jesus.
Well, again, I wasn't arguing that.
Well, you're saying that Jesus was talking in the context it was the smallest seed that they used, and so, but that's false because they found poppy seeds there.
What's the? Well, again, okay.
It's the second
I'll
smallest
listen to
seed, so technically.
Yeah.
So like, okay, I mean, it's just, was there something else you want to go to? I wanted to go back to the morality thing.
Well, I was just trying to get to the point where if
Okay.
like, so why do you believe that the Christian God is true, or like real, or
Yeah.
whatever word you want to insert there? Why do you believe in the Christian God?
Hold on a second. I'm looking something up. Yeah. I mean, a couple reasons, but largely because I believe. Well, because one, he saved my soul when I was in my sin. I was living an immoral life. God has saved me out of that. That's largely that. So experientially, that's what I would point to. Number two, logically, I believe God is the precondition for all logic, intelligibility, and morality. And so I believe God because I would say, I would point to those things largely. First and foremost, God is God. God is who he is.
So how do you know this God exists?
The same way you do, because he has revealed himself to all of humanity. Yet
Okay,
some
so-
men.
so
Hold
you-
on, let me answer the question fully.
Okay.
Yet,
go ahead.
yet he has given the grace by regeneration to those whom he has chosen from eternity past, and to those who he hasn't, they reject the truth and unrighteousness, as Romans 1 says. So
Okay.
I don't think this is a matter of intellectual. I don't think it's a matter of intellectualness. I mean, I've met many smart atheists. You two gentlemen are clearly intelligent. And so I don't think this is a matter of who has the more scientific facts, but rather who has God regenerated, etc.
Okay, so how do you know any of that's true?
Yeah, the same way you do, because God has revealed it to us to make it
Right.
known.
So you say God revealed it to us, but I say I don't have a revelation from God. You say that's God suppressing me.
Yeah.
How do you know God would suppress that knowledge?
Well, I didn't say that. I didn't
Well,
say that.
how do
I
you know
said
I'm
you are.
How do you know I'm suppressing that knowledge?
Because if you weren't, you would be a Christian.
How do you know that?
Are you a Christian?
That's irrelevant. I'm asking how you know that. How you know I'm suppressing the knowledge?
Because you're an atheist. Because you're not. That's how.
Okay, but no,
That's one way.
you're stating that I don't believe in God, but you're not stating how I'm suppressing knowledge.
You're an atheist. You're an atheist. That's one way you do suppress it. 'Cause you
Okay,
don't-
but
don't
how
believe
do
it.
you know that I'm suppressing
answering-
knowledge?
I am directly answering. your
Did
question.
God tell you? Did God directly tell you that I'm suppressing knowledge? Or are you getting it from
Are
some
you
other
listening
source?
to what I'm saying? Are you
Well,
listening to what I'm saying?
I'm asking, where do you get that information? Did God tell you, or is there a source that you have?
Did God tell me what?
Did
That you're an
God
atheist?
directly tell you that I'm suppressing knowledge?
Yeah.
God spoke that specifically to you.
Romans 1. That's how you told.
Oh, so the Bible.
Of course, I'm a Christian. What do you think I was going to say?
Well, I just wanted to make sure.
Grandma's.
No, I just wanted to make sure. So you have two sources of quote unquote knowledge according to your worldview.
Negative.
You have one source of knowledge. No sources of how many sources of knowledge do you have?
One source.
Okay, and what's that source?
God.
Okay, and you would say God inspired the Bible. So
We've already gone through this.
could I acquire knowledge from the Bible?
Sure, you can. Of course.
Okay, so that's a source of knowledge.
Of course, God. God's
Okay, so
word.
so when I asked, was the Bible a source of knowledge? You said no, and then
did
I
not say
asked
that.
why. Okay, so
They're not two
is the
different
Bible
sources.
a source of knowledge?
Hey, sir, relax.
Well, you're not
Calm
answering
down.
my question.
I am answering your
Is the
question.
Bible a source of knowledge?
Let's just chill, man.
Yes, they're not two different sources. They're connected to one another. It's not like the God and then you have the Bible over here that are two different sources. They're connected. It's
Okay,
God and His
how
word.
do you know the Bible's true?
The same way you do, because God has revealed it in such a way to we can know that His word is true, because God is not a liar.
And we know God revealed it because the Bible said so?
Yeah, that's one way.
Okay, great. So that's a great circular argument in which you
of
led to
course.
nowhere.
Everybody argues circularly.
So,
I don't.
I'm
Sure.
not.
Let me
So,
show
like,
you this.
so
Fantastic facade.
my-
Let me show you. Let me answer. Let me ask this
Okay.
because he says he doesn't argue circularly. How do you know your logic is true?
I presuppose my logic to be true.
So you use your logic to verify your
Oh,
logic.
No, it's
Logic
presuppose it.
logic is
you
presupposed.
don't use logic.
Presuppose.
You don't
It's
use it?
No, I use it. It is presupposed.
There you go. That's circular. Thank you.
No, it's
No.
not. So,
That is-
There was no circle made.
Where's
Where's the loop here?
And so a circle is when you're justifying.
I know what a circle is.
Sure. Okay, but that's not what he's doing. He's presupposing.
so
logic.
okay, but he uses it to prove it.
No, I
No, he's
presuppose
not
logic
proving
is
logic.
there.
He's
I
if
did
he
not
proved
prove
it.
it.
It wouldn't be presupposed.
Okay, prove to me logic exists without using it.
I presuppose it exists.
No. So if
I'm
you
asking you to prove it.
You're asking me to
hold on.
presuppose what I stated as a presupposition?
if he was,
I was very clear on what I asked you, and I want you
So-
to answer it.
Can I answer it? If you
Be my
presuppose,
I'm talking
guest.
a fantastic facade right now.
if you
I'm
you don't
presupposing something.
You do not prove
Okay.
a presupposition. That's
Okay.
not how it works.
So him asking me to prove my presupposition.
If you prove it, it's no longer a presupposition.
So him to prove ask him to prove my presupposition is an invalid question, right?
yeah, it's a contradiction.
So there you go.
No, my
So his
point is
question
you made a
invalid then.
no. My point is you made a circular
No,
argument.
you're-
I didn't
Okay,
make a circular
fine. I
argument.
take it back.
You're-
Your
you're-
question was invalid.
How so?
Your question.
How so?
Because your compadre just told me you can't ask if you can prove a presupposition.
You didn't
Yeah.
give me a presupposition. You said
Yeah,
you knew
my
the Bible was
presupposition
true
is
because
God.
God said so,
Yeah.
and that God
My
said so because the
presupposition-
Bible said so.
My
That's a
presupposition
circle.
is God. My
That's a
presupposition
circle.
is
Yeah.
God.
So you presuppose God, and the Bible's irrelevant.
So can I jump in here? So can I
Wow.
jump in here? Okay. Can
You got the flamethrowers, man.
okay, throw that question at me. So you saying so like you want me to presuppose logic, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I misspoke. I said so I presuppose logic,
Right.
right? So I don't do anything to demonstrate logic. I just presuppose it because it's just locked. I'm locked in there.
How can you challenge your presupposition? Can they be?
Yeah, well, you could challenge the presupposition, but any attempts just seem self-refuting. So like let's say I try to disprove logic. Well, you would have it requires logic to disprove it.
Right.
So attempts to disprove it, they just seem to fail.
So you couldn't actually challenge that presupposition.
No, you can challenge it. The challenge just fails.
It's not really a challenge then, right?
So like
Or it's an unchallengeable challenge.
No, it's a challengeable challenge. It's just not a successful challenge.
Sure. So it is
what's
an
the unsuccessful challenge.
Right.
So this is why we just presuppose it. But here's the thing. So but we're using Occam's razor, like you're not, because and this is why I was so like hung up on figuring out what truth was and just demonstrating that it was merely ontological. It wasn't epistemic at all. And so because and I know where you're coming from, right? And because you're saying that it's the mind of God, which is his epistemology.
Did you grow up in the church?
Yeah, I was a Christian for like 15 years. I read Van Til from cover to cover. I was a presuppositionist.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was a reformed Christian rapper for a while. So yeah, I know all this presuppositional talk.
What was your rap name? Seriously, man, we could have collabed.
Yeah, Yahshua De Leon. Okay. That's what it was. Joshua the Lion.
I like it.
Yeah. So but like what was it? Man,
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So like the reason, I guess we're talking about like where we start from, like grounding. Mm-hmm. So with logic, there's nothing. We can't seem to justify it, but we can't refute it either. And also, if we don't use it, there's really nothing else that makes any sort of sense. I think you can. So we're just stuck with it.
I do think you can. Maybe you would agree with this. I think you can justify if your logic is valid or not. Otherwise, you would be stuck with a logical fallacy, right?
Well, sure. I can justify whether my logic is valid, but we were talking about questioning logic itself. Because like when I'm questioning my logic, like I'm using logic.
Correct.
So we're talking about like logic itself. So we're talking about like the logical absolutes, identity, excluded, middle, non-contradiction. If we try to question those itself, it just doesn't work. And presupposing them seems to be the only method. And from what we can tell, everything seems to conform to this. And not even things that exist, things that don't exist.
But isn't that like a pragmatic view? It works. It's what worked best. So therefore.
No, so it's not pragmatic. It's like because nothing else works at all.
Well,
because I'm not picking it because it works better than anything else. This is it. And I don't see. Yeah, I don't see any way to escape it.
Could there be something else that works better? You just don't have knowledge of, right?
Sure. I mean that could be the case. I mean, well, I don't know if it's possible, but I don't see why it isn't. Like I'm not omniscient. I'm not the zenith of intellectuality. So, sure.
So you say logic? That's our starting axiom, right? That everyone has to abide by. It's a universal, absolute, objective reality for everybody.
I have issue with some of those words, but sure,
okay,
I can grant you that.
What words would you, I guess, kind of?
Well, okay.
Not want to.
Well, I guess when you say,
and I'm not asking a guy. We're just talking. I don't,
Sure. So, well, I guess when you say when you said for a universal absolute, I forgot exactly what you.
Yeah. So it's universal, absolute, objective. It's it's everyone is kind of has to submit to these laws.
Well,
right?
yes, they do. Yes. Like it the universe
yes,
just
to the extent
all of existence.
Yes, but I will caveat just in case this is the direction you're going to clarify.
I don't have a direction. I'm just asking.
Okay,
Just
well,
kind of
just in case, I will say that like people can do things that are illogical.
yeah. So
So-
when I say they have, I'm not saying that people like don't violate these laws and are completely fine
So,
with it. People live. Go ahead. Sorry.
Let's be more clear. So people can do things that are irrational.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, but like but
So-
in this context, we're getting really technical here.
Sure.
And so when we say illogical, we're talking about violating the laws of logic.
Right.
Right. Okay. So
So when I say right, these are not that. So if they violate these laws of logic, we would say this person is thinking wrongly, right? Illogical.
yeah. So yeah, if they do something irrational, like if their thinking is irrational, that means they're violating some sort of
Code, way of some ethic. Even.
Well, not even ethic, just a clear way of thinking. Like
Okay.
in a proposition or an argument, it has to follow a structure.
Sure.
And there's about 24 different syllogisms that are valid out of the 256 possible ones, right? And so if it doesn't follow those ones, then the conclusion doesn't follow.
Right.
So sure, and those are all based on illogical absolutes, and I don't see a way to escape them. And this is why I was saying at the beginning that they have all you need to in order to use them. All you need is existence.
You want to know something interesting with you guys, and this is kind of a compliment. So hold on to your seats.
Okay.
You guys are rare in the atheist community.
Oh, because we're black.
No. Fantastic. Facade.
That's my brother.
Was he black? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just albino.
That would have been like a crazy, when y'all talking about show names, I was gonna say 3 black guy in the token, and so he would have got me like, I'm black. No, but most atheists do not hold that truth is objective or morality is objective.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked extensive, and so let me just say this: it's from if my conversations with atheists, I've talked to quite a handful of atheists, have been some kind of litmus test of this. I would say most atheists wouldn't agree with what you just said. I would love to see a conversation with you and some atheists about this. That would be awesome.
No, you said most atheists aren't more realists. I mean,
Yeah.
okay. I mean,
They would be.
I
They
mostly
would be.
counted Christians. So, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't get
Well,
it.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, we live in
Yeah.
America. I mean,
I guess I wanted to get back to the more realist argument when we were talking about morality, because we were talking about well-being, because it seems like I think it was something that Joe had said, because we was talking about our inability to determine whether something is conducive to well-being, and
Right.
this is why I wanted to separate epistemology from ontology, because whether or not you know something is conducive to well-being is irrelevant to the fact that it is conducive to well-being. So, for instance, like if
how would you know that? So all this hinges on us actually. So the reason why we want it, let me just, maybe this will help you see where I'm coming from. The reason why you want well-being is because you actually know what it is. No, you don't know what well-being is.
I'm sorry. I know what well-being is. I thought you said asking because I know what's conducive to well-being. I had added that word in. That's what I thought you meant.
No. So
Yes. Okay.
So right, you desire well-being not only for yourself, for others, right? It's right. So you want it for everybody. You want this universal thing, right?
Yeah.
The reason why so that's your desire, right? But the reason why you want that is because you actually know what well-being is. It's not some kind of, well, I want well-being, but I have no clue what it is, right? It's like you know it, right? You believe it is objective and universal, absolute, kind of what we talked about just a second ago. So that's why I believe these ontology and epistemology, though they're distinct, you are correct about that. They're not the same thing. They are related.
So here's my objection. So in order to, you probably haven't watched our other episodes, but we have this.
I'll have to watch you guys more, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna subscribe, man.
Please
Hold on, wait a second, man. I'm about to drop in the chat on y'all sometimes.
Okay, please do.
Subscribe.
Perfect, man. Thank you. We're at 55 now. What I was gonna say was, so like there's another guy we had up here, Nico, and he was objecting because he was like, although you could have morality if it was just ontological, but if you had no knowledge of it, you couldn't make any use of it. Like its utility would just be zero, because like there could be morality. I just don't know what they are, so I can't conform my behavior to them, right? So like it's important, but what I maybe I wasn't being charitable, because what I thought you were coming at me was you were trying to say that my moral system wasn't objective.
No, I didn't know you.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, obviously, I believe that, but that wasn't my point.
Okay. So,
But,
and that's
yeah.
what I was just trying to demonstrate. So, like,
Okay.
yeah.
We agree with that. Like, what I was getting at, they're obviously distinct but related. Like,
Yes. Well, and
I would argue you can't have one without the other.
and I would argue you can, because so
You
like
say you can,
yes, you can.
or you would. So if you I'm trying to think how right, the desire for well-being. I mean, you could desire that and not know what it is, but you wouldn't even know how to pursue that.
It's not even about a desire. So when I describe well-being, I'm saying when I describe morality, I'm talking about well-being, and it's just analytic. So, and regardless of whether or not you knew what was good for you, there is something that's good for you. For instance, like a child, right? And let's say the whole world was just full of 2-year-olds, and they just wanted to eat ice cream and candy and stuff. They had no idea what's healthy for them and what's not, right? Objectively, eating like your meats and your vegetables and proteins and all that kind of stuff, that would be healthy for them.
Get on that all meat diet, man.
Well, also like,
dude, I tried that out and like lost 10 pounds, man. I feel great.
It works. I don't think it's the healthiest thing.
No, I can't do it forever.
Okay.
I did it for like a month. And, but in that statement, well-being, knowing what well-being is actually definitional.
You think?
Because if you don't know what it is, then you could pursue irrationality, right? Wanting cake and candy and thinking that is actually your well-being, but you would be wrong about it.
Right, but you can have those desires.
Oh, hold on. Here's the thing. So you said you will be wrong about your well-being. That's the point. So that's what I'm saying. So whether you know it or not, there is something that is conducive to well-being.
Sure.
So if you didn't know that water was healthy for you, irrelevant, water would still be healthy for you.
Sure.
And that is what I'm talking about. Drinking water would be the moral thing.
It would be, but not knowing that fact could be detrimental to your well-being.
Yes.
Right, but they're not contingent upon each other.
And that's the point that
say that again. I didn't hear what he just said. What?
I said, but they're not contingent upon each other.
Yeah,
the fact that water is good for you is not relevant to whether you know water is good for you or not. Water is good for you.
Sure.
They're not coexistential.
So
moral epistemology provides the utility of objective morality.
So that's which is extremely important, right? And so if I said contingent, please forgive me if I said that. I'm just saying they're related.
Right, but we have a truth?
It's the difference between truth and wisdom, right? It's important to know truth, but it's also equally important to be wise, because wisdom is the application of truth.
Right,
knowing how to apply that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like earlier you were saying you cannot have truth without knowledge. And we're demonstrating the fact that like something can be true whether you know it or not.
So maybe I was misspeaking. I was speaking from the aspect of someone actually I guess the application of it or
right, but
I'm trying to
it's
flesh
applied,
it out. So
its utility, if you will, is not relevant on is contingent upon your like knowledge of it. But the truth is not contingent upon that, and it's not like dependent upon that in any way.
So by contingent, you mean dependent upon, or
right?
Or,
it doesn't matter whether you know it or not.
Of course. So I wasn't making that argument.
That is the exact relationship I was trying to describe at the beginning in regard to truth. At least that's how I you can have truth regardless of knowledge.
Yes, because if truth is objective, it really doesn't matter what it is, what it is, right? It's truth. So I wasn't objecting to that point. I guess maybe the point I thought was,
but you kind of would, right? Because you were talking about it has to conform to the mind of God.
Well, I would argue the other way.
So do you think God's epistemology is
It's not changing.
Okay, what I was asking is God's epistemology logically prior to ontology?
Flesh that out a little bit.
Okay, so is God's knowledge, for instance, like let's say when I say in order for me to have knowledge, what I believe has to conform to reality. So I say the sky is blue. I have knowledge that the sky is blue because I believe it, and the sky is actually blue, right? And when I was reading Van Til, the way I understood it was it didn't work that way with God, which is why he couldn't be wrong, which is why he was necessarily omniscient. The sky was blue because he knew it to be blue. You're saved because he knew you to be saved, and so you're disagreeing with that.
I would object that that's what Van Til was arguing. I know that what Van Til was arguing.
In defense of the faith. That's the point we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, but do you agree with the statement?
No, I don't, because that makes God's knowledge dependent upon some kind of future. Like he's
no.
learning.
No. Oh, you misunderstood. Maybe that was a bad analogy. Maybe I misunderstood what I was saying. So like God isn't learning. So like God from an eternity past knew the sky was blue. That was just a part of.
So let me show you how I would okay. In my language, he decreed it. It is out of God's decree, right? Not. So when you say knowledge, it's and now I know that's what you weren't trying to mean this, but what it sounds like from my perspective is God is intaking some information in.
No.
That's what it sounds like. You see what I'm saying?
Actually, reverse, right? The information is coming into existence because God knows it. So I'm going the opposite. God isn't intaking information.
Yeah. Before the earth existed, God knew the earth was going to exist.
Yes, the information is what it is because God knew it. This is kind of how he goes into election, right? Right? Because like
are you talking about Van Til or who? Or are you just talking about God?
And Van Til, and kind of when Paul talks about, he's like before, like he says like
the foundation of the world,
like I knew you,
I
knew you, and so he's talking about how he had intimate knowledge of them, right, of his elect. So
I like how you put that.
Yes,
it's like so like the word no. I have to tell Christians this a lot. The word no, it's not just knowledge. It's like a covenantal relationship. Like
yes, it's very similar to the way a man knows his wife.
Exactly,
it's very intimate.
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
So that was my understanding. So like God, you're saved because God knew you, and maybe I was reading too far. Maybe I was reading things that wasn't actually there. But from my understanding was like when God understands that an apple is red, it isn't true because the apple is in fact red. The apple is red because God knows it to be.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a Van Tilian position.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I could have been
yeah.
Been a while. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
So would you and this is like, so you wouldn't say that that existence is logically prior to God's knowledge?
No.
Would you say?
I understand. Hold on. Is existence logically prior to God's?
Yeah.
No. No.
So would you say like it's eternal with it?
So this is where we would probably have some kind of distinction. So
okay,
it's I think it was Van Til. It might have been Bonson, but I'm pretty sure it was Van Til who stated before God created, and it's this. I'll be honest with you. It's a little hard for me to even wrap my mind around the eternity past, but I'll state it in the plain. So Van Til argued that even before creation, there was nothing, right? Not even nothingness, right? It wasn't like there was this thing that's like nothing, right? That's like, I don't know. It's hard for me to. I understand what Van Til is trying to argue, but it's kind of hard to flesh out. this concept of what he's talking about. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, I probably look like a fool just trying to.
No, I mean Van Til was pretty hard to read.
You know, he really was, because English was not his first language.
I know.
It was Dutch.
I could tell.
And sometimes, you know, it's that. So I read the book together with an apologist, and he was breaking some of this down, which made it a lot more digestible. I think Bonson is a lot more digestible, but I don't like his theonomy. I'll be honest. But Bonson's probably a little more easier to read, but that was kind of the critique Van Til got, that he was, bro, no one knows what you're talking about. That's because and another thing that made him so hard to read, he was so ingrained in the mind of philosophers, right? That was his field, philosophy. And so your average common guy is like, bro,
I don't understand what he's saying. Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Yeah,
What ontology? What, like the metaphysical, the one and the already and the not, and like what are you talking about? The one and the many, and you know, and so Van Til. So I'm still trying to understand that concept. So yeah. But I do get the point he's trying to make, that if there's nothing prior to God, there can't even be this concept of nothingness that exists along to God, because then you have a simultaneously eternal thing outside of God.
Okay, right. So nothing's prior to God. So like, what about his knowledge? It was already there, right?
So when I say outside of God, so it's not like there's this outside knowledge or outside truth of God. I'm not
asking that. Like,
okay.
So like the in his, I know
divine mind.
Yeah, in his divine mind,
right? That
knowledge was eternal with him, because God's not learning.
Absolutely.
So he always knew. So this is what I was saying, that God's epistemology is logically prior to our ontology. So because God always knew that the sky was blue. Eternity past. You can go a bajillion years in the past. God knew the sky is blue. And now the sky is blue. And it has to be that way. Otherwise, God would believe a lie.
Sure.
Okay, so that's I guess that's where I was going at.
Okay. That's yeah.
Right.
Okay. So you're saying God knows prior to the truth kind of manifesting itself?
Yes.
Is that what you're getting? Okay.
It becomes truth because God knows it to be.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying now.
Sure.
Yes, totally.
Okay. I think that right there is why we're bumping heads so much on the epistemology ontology thing with truth.
I think so.
Okay. All right.
Okay. What you said. Sorry. Hey, I'm a dumb kid from Louisiana.
No.
I tell you, sometimes you got to break it down. I'm like, okay, now, hey, talk to me like I'm 3. I get it now.
So yeah, that's why that's why I wanted.
That's what you were trying to say in the beginning. What we were.
That's not what I was trying to say. I think that was from watching some of your other videos, and then like knowing where you're coming from. I think that is the barrier. Because
you're saying that's helpful to understand what I'm saying.
Yes, because
knowing where the disagreement is.
Yes, because when we're talking about God, the mind of God, like the knowledge, right? That is God's epistemology. So you can't for you guys,
I like that term, God's epistemology. That is great, man. I'm about to make a song about that.
Sure. So because of that, it cannot be separated from ontology. Right, because it is determined by what God knows, and so that I think that was the barrier. And so so for me,
okay, I'm tracking.
Sure. Now for me, as an atheist, not believing in a God,
right,
I see just the ontology, and I don't have a mind that can determine ontology.
Right.
You know, or maybe that wasn't a good word.
No, I get what you're saying.
Exactly. So I think that was the barrier. So
so that's why I was saying it's related, right? But distinct. It's not the same thing, right? God's knowledge, it's not what how do I say this? Right? It doesn't exist so it's not like red apple and then there's a red apple right there, the simultaneously.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Right. So so I like how you said it is prior the knowledge, I would even say the decree exists prior to the manifestation of that knowledge,
Yes.
the revelation of that knowledge.
Yeah.
I like that term, revelation of that knowledge.
Being revealed to us.
Yeah. So we're tracking.
Yeah, we are.
This is good.
I think it's because of that we would never see eye to eye on this.
I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
agree.
because I.
But you know what? This has actually been helpful.
Mhm.
Because if we have another conversation, which I hope we will,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
We've kind of worked this out. It took 2 hours, but hey, progress sometimes happens.
Yeah, man.
Hey, this is good. But you know, you'll see where I'm coming from versus because I do consider myself more of a theologian, and I come to you know, these philosophical things from a theological perspective, which I don't think that's a surprise to you, but I want to ground my faith in what Scripture says, right? More importantly, who God has revealed Himself, right, to be. If I truly believe that, you know, if I truly believe the Bible is God's word, I mean, I would have to be forced to. All right, I gotta accept it all, right? Like, I can't just be like, oh man, I'll deny that Genesis part, you know. It's like, but you know, everybody has philosophical conundrums that they have to deal with in their worldview. They have you know, and you and I forget the term. That's what it's called. It's been a long time since I've listened to some old James White and Jeff Durbin. But so you listen to them?
Yeah, I used to.
They just had a debate. At Utah. I'm gonna have to put that in the watch later.
You know what? I know about that. I'm part of a group on Facebook called Reformed Bars.
Oh man, I had to leave that group. It was too toxic, man. That's funny.
Man.
That's funny. You're in there. It
I'm
kind of
still
got it got woke and social justice on me, so I had to I had to dip out. So I was in there like 3 or 4 years ago. That's funny. That's funny. You're in there.
I'm still there.
How they let you in there, man?
Yeah.
Kick him out.
I was a Christian when I got in there.
Okay, so how long have you been atheist, if you don't mind?
This is like late 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I turned.
And what was it? And what was it again? I couldn't remember. You had said last time. What was
Hopefully
it?
it's better than Homeboy.
Oh, man.
He said it was what they do with all the poop on the Noah's Ark.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
You probably laughed.
What did they do for the poop on Noah's Ark? And like I just didn't. And she like they threw it off the boat, and I just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, it does make sense.
Yeah.
What else you gonna do with the poop? You gonna throw it off the boat?
Well, I think. Well, I'm curious. Like, what do you understand the gospel to be? Like, you know, you said you were a Christian, and then you kind of left. Like, what do you understand the gospel to be? And then, what made you, reject Christianity, reject Jesus?
When I said understand the gospel to be, I mean, guess how much detail you want me to go into?
Yeah, it could be a little brief.
Okay, you'd be brief.
30-minute
Gospel.
sermon.
Yeah.
Okay, so like,
seconds.
my understanding was like, we're all sinners. We sin through Adam, as he was like the federal headship over us, and so that sin covered like all of humanity, and so God is displeased with that. He just can't be in that presence, so he had to do something with it. So he was like, I'm gonna create hell. He could put him there, or you can accept his offering, and you can have your sin washed away. I mean, that's my understanding of the gospel. A very, very rough overview.
Yeah. So how'd you I guess what was some of the trickling down to part 2 of his question, like the trickling down effects of why you kind of apostatize?
So it was I was.
Don't tell me it had something to do with Reform Bars, man.
It didn't. It wasn't Reform Bars, but I went into Reform Bars and to have discussions about it. I mean, and everybody's pretty close-minded. Like I wasn't. I don't know. I didn't think I was.
Everybody's closed-minded.
Well, sure. I mean,
except the postmodernists.
I felt like I wasn't treated very kindly.
Okay.
And so I mean
that makes sense.
Yeah. And so I mean
they don't like me in Reform Bars. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So I probably would agree with a lot of your assessment of that.
So what ultimately happened, like I was working on my first master's degree, and back in 2014 I was studying public policy. Yeah. And so I was studying public policy, and I had I was like, man, I was fresh off the Van Til. I was in the presuppositional apologetics, man. I was all in. I was like out in the street, preaching to people and stuff. Like, it was like my thing. And so I wanted to have like not just these systematic theology, but a systematic worldview, the way to approach politics and everything. And so I thought I had that, and I was looking at how. Looking at the Constitution and how they were checking ambition with ambition. I was like, oh, this is kind of very reform type of view to look at this, because people can't be trusted. And so so I'm like, so that's why they're limiting this, because because of depravity. And it's like I was looking at all of this, and like the politics, I guess my understanding of law and government was like kind of like bringing me closer to God. And then I ran into a passage, Romans 13. I'm sure y'all are familiar with that. And it pretty blatantly says that all governments are of God. And so
go ahead.
Well, maybe if I can find a verse.
Yeah, I know what you're referring to. Like they're his ministers of judgment, things like that.
Yes, but it literally says that all governing authorities are of God, and it says rebelling against what God has instituted will bring judgment upon themselves. You rebel against the government, you're rebelling against God. And so just use your imagination. There's tons of governments that we would consider to be immoral, right? And so, like, Nazi Germany. So
you don't think this is like giving approval to those institutions, right?
So,
but you think this
I'll tell you how I think it's talking about, like, just it's the context of like submitting to authority. It's not saying every authority is moral or right or just. I mean, clearly there's a God's law that exists that the Bible says is right or wrong, right? And so I don't believe it's saying that this is like every institution is right or wrong, but there's something to this issue. And then Romans 1 talks about this of even those wicked societies that exist, the issue of authority and submission. God does not want his people to just be these vigilantes and like, geez, I mean, my analogy is like the BLM rioting in the streets, right? Like God doesn't want that existing in society, even wicked ones. So
I mean, like even like Jesus kept Peter in check, right? He's kind of a zealot,
right? Exactly. And so that's how I read this passage. Not that and then there's a lot we could extricate out of it.
We can have another talk just on that.
But I do want to hear about your story.
So like from that, and I was having trouble with it. This was back in like 2014, and I kept thinking about it and looking more into it, and I was just having problems with it. And then I decided, I was like, this isn't a good idea. This might turn me away from Christianity. So I just threw it on the shelf, and I just refused to handle it and look at it. And around 2018, I was like,
so were you like kind of like, I'm doing the Christian, or you kind of, when you say put it on the shelf, you were like apathetic to it?
Yeah, I put my tackling of this passage, trying to rectify this with the gospel, with my understanding of Christianity. I put that on the shelf, and I just looked at the rest of the Bible. I wouldn't even read it. I do my studies on Romans. I go from 12 to 14.
14. Yep.
I wouldn't even read it. So so around 2018, I came back to it, and I was like, you know what?
Hey man, you could have jumped to verse 8 though. I mean,
So I came back to it, and so I was like, you know what? If this is true, it'll hold up, because God is God, and so I'm elect. There's nothing that can take me. I looked at this verse, and I was like, you know what? I think Paul is wrong. Paul is wrong about this. And when I didn't realize what I was doing, I just threw out infallibility, right? That all scripture is good for teaching.
Did someone like challenge you on that? Like, hey, bro, or you just kind of came to that conclusion yourself?
I came to my conclusion myself. And so I didn't talk to anybody about it, other than I talked to my mom about it. And she was like, well, yeah, I can see why you think that. And so, and then I was like, looking at the context of other things that the Bible authorizes, some of the mistreatment of women. I was looking at, I don't think what Joshua did to the Canaanites was moral. And so I was having so many problems. I was like, but it seems to be so consistent with this passage. And so I threw out infallibility. And then a week later, I was an atheist. It just
consistent though. I'll give
Yes.
you that. Like I think once you throw out infallibility, I mean, there's no reason to remain a Christian.
Yeah.
In my view, right? Like, so I think it's consistent. Obviously, I would disagree with it, but I think it is consistent. I mean, because you got like, so I don't know how invested you are into the Christian world today. I'm sure you probably keep up with some stuff, but like, you got the Andy Stanleys of the world, and the Craigs that they deny inspiration and infallibility. Like, as long as Jesus rose from the dead, who cares if he lied about this or they were wrong about that? Or But to me, if I truly did not believe in infallibility, there's no way I'd be a Christian this day. I mean, I'd hang it up like you. I mean, I don't think there's any reason. But no, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all good. I mean, so but that was really the end of it. And so like after that, like I was done. I had my wife found out about it. She was devastated.
Is your wife Christian right now?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, she's Christian. And so she tried to talk to me about it. We had several pastors talk to me about it, and I just found all their answers once. Because like by that time, like I was already like atheist. So so Romans 13 wasn't even just the problem. Like, there was so many other problems.
Yeah, you were too invested with other stuff.
So now like we're not even like put the Bible to the side. Let's talk about epistemology. You know what I'm saying? So like it was. I mean, at that point, it was very difficult to.
So did that lead to? So this is probably. So with all that, then you gradually were just like, yeah, the gospel doesn't make sense, or like at first the gospel made sense to you.
Well, I guess it means what you mean by the gospel making sense. I mean, there's no like logical.
So like when you kind of just describe what the gospel was, like that sounds silly to you, right? Like that sounds silly, like that.
Well, I mean,
that you were created and you sinned against God, and He's so loving and gracious and merciful that He would send His Son to live the life you couldn't live, die the death that you deserve. Jesus would rise on the third day, defeating sin and death and providing a way back to Himself, like that. Like eventually, like that's silly. Like it sounded silly. Like,
well, I suppose. I mean, I never thought of it just being silly. Well, like, because I mean, just because something that sounds silly, it doesn't mean it's false. Like there's a lot of things that are true. I mean, this is how you have to throw out all those intuitions that are really just based on observations. That,
and obviously, I don't think it even sounds silly, but I know like some, because you're like different than, like Chris said, you're different than a lot of atheists, where a lot of atheists would say, yeah, that sounds silly.
Yeah, but even if it was sounding silly, it doesn't make it not true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, because I mean, like, we talk about an electron spinning up and down at the same time. That sounds silly. That's what they do.
Right.
So I mean,
yeah, just trying to understand kind of where.
So but my main issue it was epistemic. I was like, how do you know this is even true? Regardless of how silly it sounds. I mean, that is problematic, but how do we know that is true? And even like, and there were so many things, like I was running to, if like even the resurrection, if let's say Jesus died and then He came back to life right in front of me, how do I know that He was able to do that because of God? So I mean, I don't want to go into a debate about that. It's 11 o'clock. We gotta get ready. But you see what I'm saying? So there was like problems like that, and so it was like at that point, it was about 2 or 3 months before people found out I was atheist, and so at that point it would have been, I had too many questions, and I felt like also there've been preachers like your average preacher is they're taught in the seminary and they're just dealing with church folk. They don't have the tools to go out and actually argue these things, because
many I agree with you.
Many.
I agree.
They'll stand by how the pulpit and just make assertion after assertion and never challenged.
I agree.
Sure.
So, and so those were the type of folks I was dealing with, and they were just I'd ask them questions. They're like, "Oh, I never thought about that before."
They kind of just knew like the right preacher thing to say,
yeah,
but not like could engage intellectually with you on some of the questions and the challenges you would bring up.
Could not.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You know, funny enough, I don't want to say we have a similar story, but there's some similarities with it where I was kind of getting fed up with the answers I was getting. Because I go to church and I'd be able to predict the exact message is going to be every Sunday. Faith and finances. We're going to talk about some faith and finances every week. And you know, I just remember kind of having this like, I don't know, existential moment where I'm just like, I am tired of this. Like, I remember like someone asking me like in the church, like, man, if they pretty much asking me a question about money, and it was kind of like that was like what it was about for them, you know, like if I could have like dug into their heart, they were asking me like, you want the money like me too, right? And I was just like, this ain't what Christianity is about. Jesus didn't come to make me rich, right? That ain't what it's about. And so it was one of those churches.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember really struggling, man. I mean, I remember like this one guy, he was like kind of discipling me through some of this stuff. And you know, issue of like, it was very charismatic. So the speaking in tongues, like that's what I kind of grew up in. I thought that was like biblical Christianity.
Oh, so did I.
Same.
And so and bro, just to tell you how like really I just wanted the girls, right? I'll be real. Pizza party and girls, bro. I'm there. But I remember the first time I came to understand that there was false doctrine in the church. And I remember that making me so mad because it was like the church I'm in was like deliberately twisting the scriptures, telling people, hey, if you come to God, he'll make you rich and healthy. And it's like, wait a minute. And I came to understand what that meant. You know, I was like, that's clearly false from the Bible and my experience. I mean, I got a bad back right now. You know what I mean? None of y'all healing me, right? Like, and so I can relate a sense to like, and I remember sitting down with the pastor. I'm 20 years old, having a one-on-one with the pastor and challenging him about stuff he's teaching. I don't really know that much, but funny enough, I knew more than him. Like I'm like 1 year in the faith. I'm actually reading my Bible and listening to stuff. And, you know, I asked him certain questions. He wasn't able to answer me. And I was just like, one, why would I go here? Right. Like, but two, was like, it's disheartening. Like, man, like, hey, I'm supposed to be learning from you and you don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, you can't answer my challenges. And so I understand that aspect.
Sure.
But it's interesting how we went two different ways, right? Like that led you away from the faith. And that caused me to like, I don't know, be grounded in it. I'm not trying to insult you when I say like, look at me, I'm better, but I'm just obviously the direct difference, you know, which is interesting, you know? So yeah, that's all I'm just saying.
Nah, man, I'm tracking, man.
Appreciate you sharing that. I don't think I even got that from you. I didn't know that your wife was so let's go. No, I'm playing. I really ain't playing actually though.
No, I mean I'm sure that it could be difficult. I mean I'm not trying to peer into that relationship, but I'm sure it can be difficult, man. My wife, I have tension with my family. Not that they're atheists, but they're Christian. They think they're Christian. Right. Everybody who dies go into heaven, right? And they're kind of in that realm, like the prosperity gospel stuff. And my wife's family is very kind of like, they don't want to talk about nothing. I mean, but they claim to be Christian, and you're like, really? I didn't know that. You know, it's like everybody's a Christian down south, you know, it's like, so I can understand family tension. I've had quite a few debates with my family. They don't want to talk to me about God anymore. I'm sure you probably get it the exact opposite way. But
yeah, that's funny. Like my dad, he's a pastor.
Mine too.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh.
I don't know what mine is.
That's the same, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't talk to him though. That's the funny. Oh, I don't say funny, but sad thing. But yeah, my dad's a pastor. Word of Faith, Creflo Dollar, TD Jakes kind of pastor, you know. And so that's why I'm saying me and my family do not get along. Like, because funny enough, our conversation wasn't as contentious. Like this was a pretty good one. And but with my family, man, oh man, it gets heated. I mean, because it's one thing to like not believe the Bible, you know, and disagree with it, obviously. But it's one thing to claim you believe the Bible in clear text, like don't commit adultery. You up there sleeping around. I'm like correcting you on it. And you're like, well, God loves everybody. It's like, hold on, wait a second. Like that can't be your answer to that, you know? And so that's the kind of stuff I deal with my family, you know?
Yeah. Real quick, I know you guys are gonna close out real quick though. What is like your guys' is like, I mean, obviously you enjoy these type of conversations and stuff, and I'm assuming, you know, you care about truth and like you want other people, I could be wrong on this part, but you want other people to kind of believe how you believe, or is this just kind of like something to do, pass the time until you embrace the void, or like kind of what drives you in this?
It started out, this was a brainchild of actually Facade. And it's because like we've been like best friends. Since, we've been best friends since kindergarten.
Oh
okay.
wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
That's
so,
crazy.
Yeah, and so
was Facade a Christian? Like did
he was a Christian too. We were Christian at the same time. He became atheist before I did, but it was a lot slower. It took a few years. Me, it was like a matter of a week. But like so like our conversations, like when we talk on the phone all the time, and our conversations aren't like, hey, did you see the game and all this kind of stuff or whatever. We talk about like, you know, what do you think is like the fundamental nature of ontology? Like, what's existence? Like, what does that mean? What does it mean to exist? Like, we goes into like this like deep philosophical conversations. Sometimes it used to be about theology, not as much anymore because we're atheists, whatever. But we used to have these deep conversations all the time, and they would last for a long time. And so I was like, you know what, dude, our conversations are so good. I bet other people would like to listen to them. And so we came up with this. And so turns out not as many people like to listen to it as we think.
You know why?
We get like.
It has nothing to do with y'all. It has everything to do with people just want to see people twerk in the basketball game, right? That's people. It's like having intellectual, deep conversations. Is like, what are you doing? You know. But I enjoyed this kind of stuff. Like this is my home. Like
man. And so
I tried to as a dumb Louisiana kid, of course. You know?
So that's what it's about. That's what trying to keep the show going. We're bringing people on, and so like there's really no rule except before I bring them on, I just make sure that we actually disagree, because I don't want somebody to come up here and be like, yeah, I agree with that.
Like
wild. Just like, yeah, bro, I agree with everything.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right.
It's like the show's over.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Now that's debatable. Not now that's agreeable. Right? So like, but that's really all it is. We just like having the conversations. It's not always religious. It's tend to be the past few weeks, because that's what kind of was getting us more views. Yeah. So like, love this. Yeah, like we did an episode on cultural appropriation, did an episode on reparations, and like nobody cared.
Yeah, no. You can't help but be drawn.
I would care about that. Like, see, y'all are talking about stuff I care about. Like,
really? Yes. Well, yeah.
Like, if you talk about like social issues and stuff like that, politics. I mean, I'm a novice in some of this stuff, but I like hearing about it, you know, and learning. And I mean, I think I could actually learn from.
The intention yesterday was to actually have a political one on anarcho-capitalism, but we had to cancel that one and cut it short. So I mean, like, nothing's really off the table when it comes to having a discussion. It's just we can't agree on it. You know, it's just that we can't agree. Like, whatever it is, that we have to have a difference of opinion. Because like when we first started season 1, it was just like he and I going back and forth, and it was a little draggy and a little slow. But then, like, we're like, hey, if we can get guests on that have, like, a different opinion, at least you can have, like, a genuine, honest discussion about it. And I mean, I don't think it was ever either of our intentions to, for your guys' sake, at least, to quote-unquote deconvert people or try to, like, convince you of, like, there is no God or anything like that. It's literally just, like, let's sharpen each other. It's like, let's sharpen our minds and you sharpen yours, and like come with the best you have. And if you leave asking questions, then we did our job right. And if we leave asking questions, you did your job right. And so whether it's about a God's existence, or whether it's about, you know, whether you think that, you know, anarcho-capitalism is the best form of a lack of government.
It is. No government.
No government.
Wow. None of it all.
If you think
I
if
got
you
a
think
whole society that can function without it. I can walk you through the whole.
whether or not you think men can have
I'm
babies.
gonna have to listen to that episode.
Yep. Schools, prisons, everything. Military don't need it. We can.
You know, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Oh, so I'm kind of coming into. I'm not quite there with anti-school, but I'm getting close. Because I think much of school is just brainwashing and not teaching people anything, but just babysitting.
Government.
Not gonna lie to you, right now it's been a target.
You take the government out of it, it won't be that way.
Homeschool your kids.
You don't have to do that. All you need to do is take the government out of it.
That's never gonna happen.
Bro, the government perpetuates systemic racism. So I mean, like we can go into that, but public schools. The reason you go to the school according to your zip code, you're stuck in a certain zip code because the Federal Housing Authority was denying loans to black people, so they were stuck into these really poor areas, and of course, as a result, they get the worst schools.
What do you think about charter schools?
I'm all for it. I'm all for charter schools. Any sort of private.
Okay. I got you. I see that. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I would probably be with you on that one.
Okay. Yeah. To what's tune.
I don't know about the no government thing yet.
All right.
Now, little government, absolutely.
I
don't know about no government, but
the problem is it won't stay little.
No, I agree.
It's gonna grow.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. That is part of the problem. See, total depravity, man. It's true, man.
I think you would hate me, man. I'm a socialist.
Man. I gotta hear this combo, man. It sounds epic.
That's where he and I are gonna go back and forth because he knows I'm a socialist. He hates it.
Like I said, I will drop in y'all's chat every now and then and just say what's up. I'm listening. I kind of just want to know y'all views on all kinds of stuff. You know, so I'm interested, man. Not enough of this.
Man.
There's an atheist I do like. It's because he's like addressing the issue I'm kind of compassionate about right now. But James Lindsay, I don't know if y'all know him or what y'all even think about him. He wrote a book called Cynical Theories with him and Helen Pluckrose, I believe. But I think it's a really good book because it's addressing like the critical theories, you know, your critical race theory, critical gender theories, or intersectionality stuff. That's kind of like another area I'm in addressing like social issues and you know the transgender stuff and
we did a transgender episode. Man,
y'all did.
Matter of fact, we did 3 transgenders. We did the transgenders.
I just talked about it today on my channel.
Yeah, I was in the chat.
Oh, so, you were?
Yeah. Oh, the guy was like, "Hey, please correct my brother. Please help out my brother. Where does it say? Talk about trans in the
Okay,
Bible?"
that was you.
That was me. Okay. I was arguing with a guy in the chat, and so he couldn't hold up, and he was like, "Let me try to go to K-Dub for help." No, I was destroying him. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
We did trans in sports. We did transgender in general. And then we did
trans in kids.
Children in trans.
Yeah.
Joseph Jackson was on that episode. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh
yeah.
Man, I gotta listen to it. Then I want to see what y'all think. But yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on that. Matter of fact, so on my album, there's definitely a song dedicated to it. It's called Social Grooming. But there's definitely lines about it dressing trans, you know, throughout the album. Obviously I'm not for it, but you know, but yeah, so I'm dressing a lot of that in the album. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
all right, I'm all for trans stuff.
Really? Oh man, how's that not a logical?
Yeah,
that's a logical fallacy.
That's
funny. I mean, yeah. So as far as like,
I like to hear the song and then have you back on. We can discuss the song.
Oh yeah, okay. That's actually good. I like that. A post-album review.
Yeah.
This is trash, man. I love trans. So, no, I mean, I'm all for the discuss. So I don't like the rhetoric. Largely the rhetoric, man, that really bothers me. That if you don't agree with someone's identity, you're a bigot and hateful and you're not accepting their identity. It's like, I don't think you're bigoted because you don't accept my Christianity. It's like, but it seems like with a certain group of people, it's like accept or bigot. Like that's the rhetoric that comes about. Like, hey, I could like if you just disagree with me. I mean, we just disagree. I mean, I don't think you're a bigoted because you're an atheist or, you know, you haven't affirmed everything I said. But it's like, it seems like with this particular issue, it's like all the language that, you know, emotive language, I just like, man, I'm just trying to have a conversation with you. I'm getting called bigot and you want me to die. And I'm like, hold on, wait, I didn't say any of that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like people are being hypersensitive. They even like some like are prone to violence. I saw this video. I think I'm not sure if that's what you were talking about, but because I came in like at tail end.
Okay,
but
Billboard Chris, where he got
he was holding a billboard, and then they were saying "F you, F
you."
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, so like stuff like that doesn't help the cause.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean,
it's like mob mentality. Like
exactly. That's like if we anarchists went around trying to support our view by attacking government and the police and stuff. Like, yeah, right, yeah, it's
you're done.
Exactly. And
they're gonna associate that with that
with violence. Yeah, we're gonna turn this into some terrorists, right? And so,
from a marketing standpoint, violence is never a good PR stunt.
You lose when you resort to violence, you lose the argument.
Absolutely,
it is what happens every time. It doesn't matter how logical and how substantiated your position is. You start attacking people, and people's like, no.
Yeah, it's like what's the term, like what they see is everything, right? Like optics is everything.
Yeah,
like, for a lot of people, like, hey, what you see is generally what people perceive as truth, even if it may not be.
Yeah, well, that's all you got, right? Yeah, because like you can't make judgments based off what you don't see,
right?
Right, like all you saw was this guy randomly attacking some guy. Oh, you're violent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So.
I agree, man. This has been a better than anticipated conversations. I think we had some good exchange. Hey, I'm all for passion too. People convinced of what they believe, it's gonna naturally bring out passion in people, and so I'm all for that. So I apologize though to Fantastic Facade if I got a little animated.
He doesn't mind. He doesn't. He doesn't mind. No, like you watch past episodes. He has gotten really angry at people.
But I'm just a passionate person.
He's gotten really angry at me. He not even angry. He's just passionate. Yeah. That's what's
I love passion in a person because it lets me know they're serious. Like, okay, they believe this. I might disagree, but at least I know they believe it. This is kind of my big critique on Christians. Like, bro, it's like when they preach, it's like very stale, and it's like, bro, nobody believe you believe this, but yeah, this is a good conversation, man.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. My wife is actually calling.
Yeah. Lord willing, we'll have this again. Lord willing.
Last word of the show always goes to the guests. That's something we've held on to from day one. So, guys can say your piece. Before you do that, I will say, probably going to take a hiatus as a podcast. AAA is actually going to be out of town for a couple weeks, so we're going to be taking about a 6-week break. However, we may try to stream a few times between now and then, so we probably won't see you guys next week. But as we wrap up the show, you guys can each speak your piece, or either of you, both of you, and then we'll wrap up and have it out.
I'll let you have the last word, Chris. I'll just say this. I appreciate you guys having us on. For the people that are going to eventually listen, man, this has been good. Discussions like this need to happen. I want to say for myself, man, I don't do this because it's a game. I'm serious about this, and I don't spend time away from my lovely son and wife to just have these kind of debates. And knowledge is good, and it's good to kind of wonder about these things, but we all you don't have time to find an answer to every question, but it's still good to ask these questions. But you were created by God, and we have all fallen short and sinned against him, and time is ticking, and we are all called to repent and trust in Christ. So I don't spend time away from my family and things like that, and to just play with this stuff. So just consider the claims of Christ and trust in him for your salvation.
Amen. Yeah, I would echo a lot of that. Taking time away from family, and I'm looking forward to welcoming a new baby in the home because me and my wife were adopting. And so, again, my Christian faith dictates how I live my life. That's why I'm adopting, because God has adopted us into his home. And so I want to display my Christ-likeness, right? My acting like my father in adoption. And so that's what motivated me to live my life and start a YouTube channel discussing my beliefs and exposing what I believe the Bible says is lies and error, but also giving Christians a platform to think more logically on certain issues. And hopefully I demonstrated that tonight. I enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, man, Lord willing, one day, Lord willing, if it is the Lord's will, if these gentlemen are the elect, they will come to faith in him. And so my hope is in God, not in man. And so again, I enjoyed the conversation.
Appreciate it, guys. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll catch you next time. We'll do this again soon.
Absolutely.
Peace.
All right, guys.
Peace.